Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Escondido City Council. Please rise for a moment of reflection and remain standing for the flag salute.
Yes, please join me in a moment of reflection. We come together tonight to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to serve here in the city of Escondido. We come together tonight as a diverse community, a community of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different presents, and different futures, yet one common goal, and that is the betterment of this city. We come together tonight to seek guidance, wisdom, and discernment during deliberations that transpire this evening, and in doing so, we lift up Councilmember Fitzgerald, Councilmember Christian Garcia, Councilmember Martinez, Deputy Mayor Joe Garcia, and Mayor White. May they be granted peace and wisdom as they lead our city into a bright and prosperous future. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting is called to order. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councilman Christian Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Martinez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Garcia.
Here.
And I, Mayor White, am here. We'll move on to the proclamations, and this one is for Community Development Week. All right, for April 6th through 10th of 2026, whereas the City of Escondido is committed to fostering strong, vibrant, and resilient communities that enhance the quality of life for all residents, and whereas National Community Development Week, observed April 6th through the 10th, recognizes the impact of the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships Program in supporting affordable housing, public improvements, economic development, and essential services. And whereas these programs provide vital resources that assist local governments in addressing community needs, particularly for low and moderate income residents. And whereas Community Development Week highlights the value of collaboration among local governments, community organizations, and residents in strengthening neighborhoods and expanding opportunity for all. Now, therefore, I, Dane White, Mayor of the City of Escondido, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 6th through April 10th as Community Development Week in the City of Escondido, and encourage all residents to recognize and support efforts that build a stronger community for all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. On behalf of the Community Development team, thank you for recognizing Community Development Week and highlighting the meaningful impact of the work that we do through the Community Development Block Grant Program and through the Home Investment Partnership Program. These resources allow us to invest in affordable housing, support essential services, and improve the quality of life of the residents of Escondido. We're grateful for our partners, our service providers, the staff, and the residents who make the work that we do possible and guide our efforts. Thank you again for the recognition and for continuing to support our work.
All right, next up is a presentation from for the Police Department restructuring presentation.
Good evening, City Council, city staff, members of the public who are here. My name is Ken Plunkett, and I am honored to serve as your Chief of Police. I'm excited to be here this evening and for the opportunity to facilitate this presentation as we, the Police Department, continue to strive towards accomplishing our mission of protecting our community and providing exceptional police services. For tonight, as agenda, I'm going to attempt to define the purpose of this restructure plan. Hopefully I'm successful in that mission. Highlight community, city council, and departmental priorities and needs driving the change, and provide an overview of the current department structure, and then introduce a new department structure as a first step in moving forward in the department. The purpose of this presentation is to present the beginning phase of a working plan for the police department aimed at meeting the needs of our community and adopting the direction and priorities of our city council, while allowing the department to accomplish our mission, protect the well-being of our personnel, and prepare for our future growth and succession planning. Since arriving here in Escondido in September of last year, I've had the opportunity to engage a number of internal and external stakeholders, from residents, members of the business community, service groups, school officials and school groups, faith-based leaders, the council, city staff, our internal team, as well as fellow professionals in the region. I've had the opportunity to listen to feedback and suggestions on how we as a department are doing, what we do well, where we could focus on improvement, and getting a sense of where we could best focus our resources to meet the existing needs. I broke the next couple slides into needs assessment, basically information that we've ingested over the last about 6 months as a staff, and we've kind of used to really drive where we're going as an organization. So this is the result of our community needs assessment. This isn't really in any particular order, although I put traffic safety at the top because that seems to be the number one, not only as a council priority, but for members of the public as well. Homelessness is definitely a need we need to address. Gang and drug enforcement and awareness. I meet with, Compact and EGRIP and learn about what's going on in the schools and working on enforcement and prevention and awareness programs. School safety, just in and around the schools as a general safety practice. Increased visibility, just residents are looking to see officers more often in their neighborhoods. More community engagement, transparency, and better communication. And also fireworks enforcement has become a priority for our citizens as well. Next, I hope I did a good job of representing your needs and priorities. I took this from both basically our strategic plan for the city, our priority plan, and then just through the conversations that I've had with each of you about our city and where the police department can make strides. Traffic and pedestrian safety are definitely at the top of our list. Specifically looking at decreasing pedestrian-involved accidents, looking at decreasing the number of accidents in our high-conflict intersections, improving traffic flow, and one of the transparency and communication issues with that is making our community aware of what we're doing and what we've done, the strides that we've made in these areas, and that's something that we're going to work on to be better at. Our fireworks enforcement is definitely a priority that we're working on with the city attorney's office, looking to have some enhancements in that area. Crime prevention, like I said, service delivery enhancement, strategic staffing, and then transparency excellence as council priorities. Going back to homelessness, looking for a more collaborative approach. This plan will definitely give us an opportunity to start collaborating more effectively with other city departments and actually outside entities. And then lastly, for the needs assessment, our internal assessment. Things that we discuss internally, officer safety and wellness are always at the top of the priority list, making sure that our officers are safe. And we'll go over a scheduling model that we've created that actually increases officer safety and the numbers we have out on the street at night and on the weekends. Personnel, staffing, just overall staffing in general. We talked about the need for adequate management and supervision, something that has been a little bit lacking, but we've made some strides, and you'll see later in this model that I think we're going to do a really good job of accomplishing that goal. Creating special assignment opportunities for our folks outside of patrol. Overall efficiency, just how do we do better with the resources we have, and how do we just make it more efficient? We're also looking at future technology and equipment upgrades, and also succession planning, the future of our organization. This is my best attempt at art, so I hope it's good. This is the current makeup, basically our organizational chart for the police department today. You can see the three different colors represent, basically our department today is broken up into three divisions, if you will. We have our operations division. Our investigation division is combined with our professional standards division, and that's really out of necessity because of some lack of personnel that we have supervision-wise that we don't have to manage those units. And then we have our support services division that's run by our Assistant Director of Police Services, and then their supporting staff. That's the side in red. Blue is operations, green is our investigations and professional standards. You can see a large grouping, especially in your operations division, the blue. That's where your patrol officers are, your traffic unit, our cops team. It also encompasses our SWAT team and our negotiations team, also our canines. And then the column to the right, I know it's kind of hard to see up there, but in blue, those are all the collateral duties that our patrol lieutenant are assigned to do on top of their primary duties. Currently, we're allotted 7 lieutenants, but we have 6 working. One's been on long-term leave. So between the 6 of the lieutenants, they have to take on the lion's share of their collateral duties on top of their job. And they're amazing folks because they get the job done, but it's a heavy burden on them. For instance, I'll just give you an example. We have one lieutenant who manages several patrol crews. He also collaterally, that means on the side, manages our cops team. He's also manages collaterally our field training unit, so he's responsible for all the training. And he oversees our peer support and wellness programs. So quite a heavy load on one person. It makes management oversight not impossible, but very, very tough. And there's just not enough eyes to go around or hours in the day to get everything done. And that's currently what we're looking at. So looking at our current staffing model, coupled with our needs assessment, staff has been ingesting this information. We've been engaged in a series of strategic planning sessions in an attempt to move the organization into a position to best address our needs and priorities and to establish a sustainable plan forward. Tonight's restructuring presentation is a product of this work and serves as a first phase, if you will, in moving towards our goal of providing the most exceptional police service to our community. Next, we're going to move into, this is the design of the new makeup of our police department. You can see we've separated the police department. Instead of 3, there are now 5 distinct divisions. You see our operations division in blue. Our investigation divisions becomes by itself like it should be, under its own command staff. We have our professional standards division, which encompasses training, backgrounds, hiring, recruiting, all department training, internal affairs, and we have our support services division. And the added division that we're adding to the organization, and I'll explain what the addition is in orange. And what we're calling it for now is our community enhancement division. And so really what we did is we took our cops team, our gang and narcotics unit, and our enforcement folks, and we're combining them with our traffic unit. Our traffic unit, we're going to split into 2 sections. One section is going to be primarily enforcement and your investigative side, while the other section, the sergeant is going to now supervise our SROs for the school. And the traffic officers assigned to that section will be focused in and around the schools on traffic flow patterns, safety school pickup and drop off, and just general safety. But they'll also be investigators as well. Adding the Community Enhancement Division is aimed at proactively addressing major community and council priorities under the umbrella of one division for increased communications and coordination of efforts. The new staffing model is actually, it's going to help us be more efficient, give us more equitable deployment of resources. Staffing each division with adequate supervision and management oversight will increase accountability and spread the workload out and responsibilities over a wider group. This is partly possible through the reclassification of a couple long-term vacant positions and backfilling for some long-term leave situations in our supervisory and management ranks. Will allow us to give us the supervision and oversight that we desperately need. In addition to this, the new model, we created an updated patrol deployment schedule aimed at increasing efficiency by adding coverage during peak hours. And what I mean by peak hours are we look at our priority 1 and 2 calls for service. Those are our high priorities. And we look at where the heaviest load is, and then we stack resources during those times to make sure that we get to those calls in a timely manner. One of our concerns from our officers was we were not adequately staffed at night and on the weekends. So what we have done is we've added staffing to our night crews and our weekend shifts, and we made our coverage, we call it barrel days, where we overlap on Fridays, which is a heavy day for calls for us. So we're just being more efficient with what we have now. This also freed up 2 sergeants from patrol, which we will move to supervise other needed areas. We've been able to add special assignments as a result. And this schedule also, what we did is we have a traffic division. They work certain hours, but we have a need for traffic enforcement in the evening hours and on the weekends. So we've assigned 1 car on each side of the week, so we'll have 7-day-a-week coverage during our swing shifts, so they'll be out there during the evening hours, and their focus is going to be on traffic enforcement and accidents for helping patrol with that and giving us more enforcement specific for traffic in the evening hours. Also, with the patrol schedule, we're going to be bringing back a form of sector area policing. I know the department has had it in the past. I don't know to what extent it was, but we're going to be signing patrol lieutenants to assigned sector. They'll be responsible for monitoring and responding to crime trends, engaging the community in their sectors through public meetings. We will have a forward-facing webpage, and there will be a dissemination of information to the public through that forum. We believe this will greatly enhance communication, customer service, as well as enhance transparency with the public, and it'll be a great tool for communications and sharing of information. We believe these enhancements through this restructuring process will set the foundation for the department to best address the needs and priorities of our community, our council, and our department. I believe it also allows us to now identify where additional resources will be needed to be deployed moving forward in order to maximize our results. Our plan is that our restructuring, coupled with potential future staffing growth and the addition of new technologies, will allow us to progress into the future as a leader in the industry, achieve sustainability, and enhance our ability to provide exceptional police services to the community of Escondido. And with that, concludes my presentation. I'll ask if you have any questions.
I just have 2 quick questions.
Yes, sir.
I noticed under the traffic, it says 10 officers. How many are there now? Is that an increase from where we were?
Yeah, that will be, well, right now we have 7 motor officers, and we are adding the 3 SROs to that deployment. So there'll be 10 officers total. We will be coming back at a future time to look at adding traffic enforcement officers.
Okay, perfect. And then I know you're going 2-sector policing. So how is it divided up now?
So there are sectors. It's kind of broken into 3 areas right now, but it'll basically be broken up like a T across the city.
Okay.
You know, there was different models where there was a downtown sector and there was different sectors. So we're going to look at all the possibilities and find out what would be most conducive. A lot of times what you find, like on a map, when you draw the sectors up and you put it on a map and the residents have to look at it, if you make it too convoluted to where it's a small cross street or something, people get confused. So we're going to try to stay on the major thoroughfares to make it very simple. So people could look up, find out what quadrant they're in. They'll be able to click on the lieutenant's picture. It'll have a link to his email, his or her email, and a phone number to call, leave messages, and I think it'll be very helpful for getting the information shared.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
All right. Chief, thank you so much.
Sir.
I think this is, I know when you presented this, I thought it was great, brilliant. I love the restructure. So thank you for the work that you put into this. I do have a couple questions, though. Can you go back to page 8? So I see that for the patrol, there's 4 lieutenants. I know that there was like each one that you wanted to do a lieutenant for, I guess, each division. Why is there 4 for patrol? Is that just because of the number that we're looking at and that of officers that are in it?
Yeah, we staff 4 lieutenants in patrol because of the way the schedules work. So there's basically 2 sides of the week.
Okay.
There's a front half and the back half, however you want to look at it, and then
Okay.
there's days and nights.
Okay.
So there's got to be a lieutenant that oversees those crews for
And
days.
each of those lieutenants is going to have a different sector of the city?
Yeah, each of those, currently, we do not.
But it will?
They
though?
will, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
And then for the cops division, I don't see a lieutenant there. Is that the same as the traffic division, or how does that work?
No, there's a reclassification that we're going to be adding.
Okay.
Positions.
So remember, he's presenting what we're proposing to do,
Sure.
right? And we're going to have budget
Of
conversations
course.
and other conversations. So this
I'm
is.
not
this
asking
is-
for more lieutenants. I'm
Uh,
just
uh,
I'm
well,
just
well,
asking.
Well,
know,
you're
ask
going to
clarifying
see.
questions.
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
yeah.
All
So,
right.
so you will see some asks coming forward. This was to just set
We'll
the
talk
table.
later then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
And then the ENT, I'm guessing it's the same thing, right? The ENT, I don't see a lieutenant there.
So ENT and SWAT, that's our negotiations team.
Okay.
ENT and SWAT fall under a lieutenant who currently now is in patrol,
Okay.
and he collaterally oversees both of those units. So we
Okay.
don't have full-time.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We can keep it on the restructure plan slide. This just makes so much more sense. And I really, looking at or hearing about the 18 collateral duties that they're currently under, I think it was the patrol sergeants,
Patrol lieutenants, yes, ma'am.
patrol lieutenants, yeah, that's a lot. And that 4 is in charge of, or 1 is in charge of 4 that have completely nothing to do with the other. So I think this just makes a lot of sense, accountability, and I think we're going to be able to serve the community better because of this, being able to give each department or assignment the attention that it needs. Also, the sector policing, I think it's great. I like the access it's going to give to the people in the sector to where that's going to be their person, and that person's going to be communicating with them directly. I think it's going to really build confidence and trust in our department, so I think that's genius. And then also with you mentioned the priorities as far as the council's priorities, the city's priorities, and the police department's priority, traffic safety, school safety, pedestrian safety. Even though it's part of the restructure plan, I just want to say that I do see your officers out there engaging in that right now. So just the presence at Juniper School, going out there, walking with the kids. There was something about a month ago, walk and roll to school day, and it was a big presence, a lot of talking to the people that were maybe speeding in that area, so that was really good. And then also at L.R. Green School, I'm seeing more, not citing enforcement, but educational enforcement on where they're parking and, again, driving around the kids. So I appreciate your presentation, and I think this is very promising. Good job. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to piggyback real quick. I don't get enough opportunity to say it in public, but since coming here, I've realized that our officers truly care about, I mean, this is me being as genuine as I can, or as you think I'm going to be, but our officers genuinely, truly care about this community, and the outreach and the connection and the traffic safety it's a personal thing for them. And daily, they are out there doing a fantastic job. So I just want to commend them in public. This restructuring is going to help us with the resources to be able to do those things. But they truly care about this city.
And I think too, one thing as far as the overlap, we were talking about caring, and that's why I think that there was a lot of discussion when these recommendations were made. But with the overlap on Fridays and the weekends, and even having traffic on the evenings, it's going to make such a difference, because officers get tied up and they can't be out there being proactive for safety, more proactive approach. So this is really going to allow that. So thank you.
It's a good first step. Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, thank you, Chief, for the presentation. I had been looking forward to hearing more detail with the restructuring. A few questions that I have regarding this. So I understood in times previously and under the previous model, internal affairs answers directly to the chief. Is this different, or was that a miscommunication that I had understood?
No, sir, you had it right. So this is our current model. We have a professional standards division that was set up. We have a captain that oversees that and investigations, and then the lieutenant, who is assigned to see professional standards, has been out for a good part of a year, if not a year, just on a long-term leave. So the supervision and management there has been a little bit lacking for us to set up that division. Internal affairs, traditionally, for whatever reason, the sergeant that is actually assigned to handle those basically has a direct access to me. He reports directly to me and not through a chain of command, and that's something that I'm definitely changing through professional standards. The internal affairs sergeant will have a lieutenant to report directly to, with a captain above them, and then me.
Okay.
And why it was set up like that in the past, I'm not exactly sure. There's some explanation for it, but this is going to give them a chain of command and a better system.
And this is the system that you're seeking to restructure. This is the system that is widely used in the police departments across the country?
Yes, sir, that I'm familiar with, of course, yes.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Under the new model, or under the new plan, the restructure, is there an increase of SROs to our schools?
There is not at this time. I would love to increase, and that's going to be some negotiating with the school districts. But what this does is it sets us up for increases, right? We're putting the supervision and the structure in place so that we can, with 33 schools in the city. Although I'll tell you, we have a fantastic relationship with our school districts. They absolutely love and praise our SROs that we have. So they're doing a fantastic job. I would like to get them some help, because 33 schools to cover with 3 of them is a lot. So I would like to add some resources in that area, but that's something we'll look at in the future.
The chief's actively engaged in conversations on that front.
That's wonderful, thank you. I'm glad to hear that, because that has been a point of contention for years. It is true that the schools and the students are very happy with their SRO officers, or with the SROs, but yeah, there is a need for more. So setting up the structure to be able to grow it a lot easier, that's great. Thank you so much. Special assignments versus collateral duties. Collateral duties was something that you were still expected to do. You had responsibilities and you had to answer for that. Now, special assignments, how are you explaining the difference?
Yeah, so a collateral duty, so for instance, if I work patrol, but a collateral duty of mine is I'm on the SWAT team. So I work my patrol assignment, and then I do SWAT training on the SWAT training days, and then if we have a SWAT call out, I do the SWAT call out, but I'm still assigned to patrol. My primary duty is patrol. My collateral duty would be SWAT. because it's not a full-time duty. Just like defensive tactics. If I'm a defensive tactics instructor, somebody has to teach it, it's a collateral duty. So we have a gamut of collateral duties that we just don't have a real place for them to sit permanently, so everybody has to take on extra, those are like extra things. A special assignment would be like our cops unit or traffic. Generally, a special assignment is anything outside of patrol, a detective spot, a special enforcement team spot. Those will be considered special assignments. But those would be a primary duty too. So I could be assigned to our gang team, but also be on the SWAT team as a collateral assignment too. So special assignments would have collateral duties assigned to them as well. But, so it's really, anything outside of patrol is considered a special assignment.
Okay, got it. And then that took me to my next question. You.
Although I want to emphasize patrol is a special assignment too. So maybe we should reword that.
All right. SWAT. SWAT was a collateral duty. It will continue to be a collateral duty?
Yes,
or
sir.
a special assignment? It'll continue
Yes.
to be a collateral duty. Okay, wonderful. Technology.
Yes, sir.
How is technology in your restructuring impacting is there a place for it there?
Yeah, so how this helps is, so currently, we're moving on to a new policy manual platform called Lexipol. Most agencies in the state have it, so we're moving our policy manual onto that. So that's a special project, right? We're in the process. The council approved a new CAD system for us, our computer-aided dispatch program. So that's a new technology, better mapping, better communications, better dispatching abilities through that technology. But these are all technologies that we add. I'll just go through a few more before I go to the next point. Drones as a first responder. Our body cameras are older in the contracts coming up. There's newer, improved body cameras that do all kinds of things, including translation and all kinds of services. So there's new technologies that are out that will really enhance our ability to do our job most effectively. A records management system, where we write reports is I think it's approaching 25, 30 years old. So that's going to need to be replaced. But these are all major projects that some of them can take, like our CAD is going to take probably up to a year to implement. So it requires proper management and oversight. And when you're trying to do it with two managers in the entire department trying to manage every project that we have, it really backs things up. So adding management level positions, spreading out the load, we can assign different management projects to different people, and it'll really allow us to bring them on board much faster and more efficiently with more eyes on it. But the technology itself just allows us, like drones as a first responder, they get to calls before the officers do, right? It's an officer safety issue. It's a means of maybe catching some suspects that we wouldn't otherwise catch. It assists in fireworks enforcement in some cases. But these tools help enhance our ability to serve the community and arrest bad guys. So that's what those things are all geared towards. And so adding that with the restructuring program and then that potential future growth to add, to put people in those holes that we're missing, just gives us this holistic approach to police work that will make us most efficient.
Thank you. So my last comment, better service to our community. I know that was something that you were looking for since you arrived, and this restructuring plan, as I understood as you chatted with me and shared a little bit about it, was precisely to free up time for our officers, for staff to be able to be available for the community more than it currently is. So thank you very much for that, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And I look forward to hearing the wonderful reports coming from our community members that they're actually now getting to know the officers that work in their areas and build those relationships that are so important.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, Chief. Thanks for the presentation. Quick question on the traffic. You mentioned that we have 7 officers currently.
Yes, ma'am.
And that we would be expanding it to 3 more. Are those current service officers, or would they be moved from another area
Yes.
to that? Or are you proposing adding 3 new staff?
So I would love to add 3 more staff if you're ready to to give me the go-ahead, but that's a conversation for another night. Sorry, sir. The 3 additional on there is, we're bringing the 3 current SROs at the schools, and we're bringing them under the umbrella of a traffic sergeant. And we just thought that was a natural place for them to fit, because not only are the school problems incorporate traffic issues as well, right? So I'll have a traffic sergeant who oversees both traffic units and SROs that can specifically address issues in and around the school. So I'm not really taking any bodies to patrol. I'm taking the SROs the SROs were assigned to be supervised by a patrol sergeant. So it was just kind of random. Whoever was working that day got to handle the issues that the SROs created. Now they're under a consistent supervisor, and that was one of their kind of issues that the SROs brought to my attention early on, is we just don't have any consistent supervision. It makes it difficult, although the guys that are assigned to do it do a great job, but it's collateral, right? It's kind of extra. So we just moved the SROs under there for now. I would love to expand that, and then additionally what we did is we've basically turned 2 patrol officers into traffic cars, but they're still assigned on patrol. So we have added 2 more people to our arsenal to handle traffic-related incidents, but they're still technically assigned to patrol. And that's just because our staffing numbers, I don't have the staffing yet to move them into traffic to just specifically work that assignment, but we're working on it.
Okay, so the 7 that are, I guess you call them their motor.
Motors, yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Are 2 of those then regular, the ones that you were just talking about, on regular patrols?
No. So
Okay,
those,
so you're
those-
also adding an additional 2?
those 7 are assigned to the traffic unit.
Already
And
full-time?
Already full-time. The 2 we added, I wanted to assign them to traffic.
Okay,
But I can't do it with the resources I have yet, so I kept them on patrol. And the reason we do that is for staffing numbers, right? So if there's a big incident and we need a response, then they'll be out in the field able to respond to help. But their primary duties will be traffic enforcement. So technically, we've added 2, but we just haven't moved them into the traffic unit. Their designation and their responsibility is going to be more traffic-focused on patrol.
and then just because this is a hot issue for our community, as far as, traffic, I know when there's an accident, the traffic has to be there, but what about like the proactive, I know sometimes you have operations in the city. Sometimes it's like it coincides with a month, like Public Safety Month or something,
Right.
or a grant that you get from
Seatbelt month.
right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I know you would do like special ops. Sometimes you get help from other jurisdictions to come and do a big operation where you're covering the whole city, or maybe targeting high traffic areas, and you're catching speeders, and you're doing that proactive enforcement, which I would love that to be more often than not. Do your current 7 officers that are full-time designated traffic, do they do proactive enforcement consistently, or are they kind of just responding to like the crashes and things like that?
So I would say both.
Okay,
We like them to be as proactive as they can be, but a function that our traffic investigators have, they're enforcement officers and investigators. So they
Okay.
actually also serve as basically detectives for for all of our accidents. But when you have a fatal or a major injury accident, it's a complex investigation, just like a robbery or a homicide would be. So there are times when our traffic officers are assigned to investigate. They're doing follow-up, they're processing evidence, they're working with the court, gathering witnesses, just like a detective would in a major case. So it does take them out of the field.
Got it.
So that's why adding more resources there for enforcement. But I will tell you, our traffic division is very proactive. I just saw recently, the top 5 intersections with traffic accidents, and then the collision factors, like what's causing these accidents, right? Is it speed? Is it unsafe left turn at an intersection where people are turning in front of traffic? And then they look at it. Is there a visibility issue that we need to address as a city? Or is it just enforcement? Sometimes you can get a pattern, like is it high school kids on lunch break and they're going over to the mall to get food and they just don't abide by the rules and they're crashing into people. There could be trends like that you find. But our traffic officers, they actually have a route that they do in the mornings to address all of our schools. but it just depends on, hey, if they don't have to be in court that day,
Right.
it may
Okay.
miss. So it's not as consistent as we would like it to be, but they are very proactive, and they do, I saw our traffic lieutenant just sent something out to the department about where to look for certain violations at certain intersections where we have the highest number of accidents. So we'll be doing more of that kind of the service area lieutenants will be gathering and compiling that information and then pushing it out to the organization so that everybody on patrol knows those locations and what we need to do.
Okay. No, thank you for that, because I think there's another piece to traffic that I think, folks don't think about, and so it is a very, comprehensive role, and so thank you for sharing the additional duties that it's not just being on scene or catching folks that are speeding or running red lights, but it's also the processing of when those things occur. And then you mentioned that you were going to have a website, you want to have something on the website where people can find their area. So I'm assuming that this restructure plan is contingent on our budget, future budget hearings, and that these changes you want to make, such as like the website, are all kind of tied to that. Is that correct?
So a little bit, no. The restructuring needs to happen so that we can be more effective.
Okay.
There will be opportunities to grow service provision during the budget. So one of the things that the chief has identified is he probably won't save it, but overload on individuals, and that's what stymies advancement in strategic thinking. If somebody has too many collateral duties, you can't focus down on problems because all you're doing is reacting to a set of variables that are coming at you. So like a lot of areas in the city, while we couldn't do investment, the nature of the issues was just compounding, right? And so it's very hard to give focus because, again, it's not just throwing more resource at a problem. It's actually being able to strategically have conversations internally about what maybe as the chief was saying, what we're experiencing at these high volume intersections, because it may not be an enforcement issue. It may be how how patterns of behavior might be communicating with the school. It may be a investment in the physical infrastructure, but figuring out the best way. And when you don't have the ability to manage those conversations in a more discreet manner, I will say it, inertia sets in, right? We don't go forward. So we wanted to make sure that that we had a conversation about the restructuring, and there will be some immediate benefit from that.
Yes, sir.
But there also will be a conversation in the budget. Didn't want to have too much of this, so that restructuring happens, and then you will have an ability to make some strategic investments to advance particular initiatives in the budget.
And so, thank you. And so the plan is to restructure, start restructuring now so that, for example, that you could have 10 officers working on traffic safety.
Absolutely.
As soon as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Got it. And then can we just go really quickly, and thank you for that, because it is a hot topic, and as I drive, I'm going to say this until, I'm going to be the broken record, but every single time I drive to City Hall, cars do not stop or slow down on Broadway. They just don't. And I just want to yell at every car out there. And today was a semi that was turning left, and just the person was waiting. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. But every single day that I drive to City Hall, and I would love to just see someone posted there and say, this is just unacceptable. And it's always a senior crossing the street.
Broadway and what?
It's Broadway and Park.
Okay.
It's right where the Chamber of Commerce is and Food for Less. It's the mid-block crossing in front of the senior housing.
Okay.
It's so bad. Every single day, and it drives me nuts. Okay, if we could go to the one, your assessment real quick, and I know we've, I'm gonna, so, one more, I think. Here, council priorities. I appreciate this, calling this out. I'm glad fireworks, we've been talking to the community about fireworks for a few years now. So yes, it's made it on the list. It takes a little while, but I'm happy to see this moving. The restructuring makes sense. So I'm glad that you're looking at, everything with fresh eyes. So, yeah, and again, whatever we can do to support as far as like, especially in the traffic safety area, I'm really, that's like an everyday thing that I think about. And it just pains me to get those text messages of like, an accident. And there's a lot of people that live here, and I think about it because having grown up here, right? And we've grown a lot, and there's a lot of cars out there and a lot of skateboards and bicycles, and we all have to coexist and live with each other. So, public safety is just really important. So, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
If there's nothing else, then we'll move on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have a report out of closed session?
No public report. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, non-agenda public comments.
Yes, we have a number of speakers on this item. First speaker is Stephen Wheeler.
Test 1, 2. Test. Is this good?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
Courage versus cowardice. I come today in support of the nearly 100 citizens who requested our contract with ICE be canceled at the February 25 council meeting. I am not here, however, to ask you cancel the contract. I am here asking for a demonstration of courage versus cowardice that I perceived from our 4 conservative members that night. Though from the council's internal discussion, a vote of 4-1 against the motion to cancel was assured, you lacked the fortitude to attach your name in a decision vote. Councilmember Fitzgerald, you are a career law enforcement professional. I expect courage from those who wear the uniform. I failed to see it that night. Maybe it was just left at home. Deputy Mayor Joe, you met with me at some length on this issue. I appreciate and respect the time you afforded me. I recall twice stating to you, I don't believe a word you just said. I suggest that is not where we want to be, sir. Councilmember Christian, my bad again that I have not met with you to date. I will work to correct that. But you also, sir, just sat there silent, failing to take a stand. Mayor White, I would like to echo and expand upon the remarks of Laura from last week's meeting regarding your campaign bulletin titled, Standing Up for Law Enforcement. I found it both offensive and insulting, repeatedly using the term activist as a pejorative. You said far-left activists decided to make this a political issue. The only politics I saw was seated comfortably on this dais. I suggest a more appropriate subject line would have been sitting on our butts for law enforcement. You didn't stand up. You also stated their intentions remain the same, to make our communities less safe. Maria has spoken to this council time after time, week after week, with eloquence regarding what it's like to live in her community. And you say her intention was to make her community less safe? She's a far-left activist and espouses ridiculous notions? How dare anyone impugn the integrity of a constituent?
Mr. Wheeler, your time has expired.
I did 3 minutes there?
Yeah.
Courage versus cowardice.
Our next speakers are Lupita and Jesus. Lupita and Jesus, yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Jesus Bañuelos, Charros de Escondido president. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to stay in this meeting. for me and my Charros team. And this is Lupita Martinez and Savannah Rodriguez.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I stand here before you today with deep gratitude and opportunity to speak. I'm proudly representing as the queen of the Association of Charros Escondido, and I also represent youth and the women of Charros Escondido. I'm also honored to share that I'm a 9-time site saddle champion. In charreria, a tradition that has shaped me at who I am, taught me discipline, and connected to my culture and community. As a school teacher, I see firsthand how much our youth need of positive outlets, strong role models, and connection to their culture, and that is exactly what we provide through charreria. For us, the lienzo is not just an arena. It's where we grow, where we mentor young people, where we build confidence, and where we keep our heritage alive. It is where children see what it is possible, that you can ride, compete, become strong people in this tradition. Without access to our lienzo, which is the arena, we're losing more than a place to practice. We're losing space that brings families together, that creates community events, and that preserves a beautiful cultural legacy here in the city of Escondido. I want to sincerely thank you, the city of Escondido, for allowing me to speak today and for listening to our voices. We're not asking for something new. We're not asking us for a chance to continue something meaningful because it already exists, something that already belongs to this community. By restoring access to our lienzo, we will also be able to host events that brings visitors, families, and revenue into Escondido, supporting local businesses and strengthening our community. We are ready to ride, to represent, and to give back to this community. From my heart, from all of our hearts, as we're representing us, and restoring access to our lienzo, we can continue to practice, host events, and inspire the next generation. Thank you so much for your time and for your support.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Fernando Bernal.
Good evening, Mayor White, Mr. Garcia, Mrs. Garcia, Mr. Garcia, Ms. Martinez, Fitzgerald, and Mr. Sackbeck, Michael Guinness, and Sam McQueen, all the council and staff of the city. This day, thankful for allowing us to speak in behalf of Charros of Escondido. We have a part of the team today here, which we're very proud to see him, and thank you, Mr. Jesus Bañuelos, Presidente of the Charros of Escondido, and staff. We are, just continuing to see, the time, and we are eager to see, maybe we have to be patient. We know that, but we're just looking for the time to be able to get back and continue working on that lienzo arena, which is very important for our youth and for our community to continue with this tradition that we love, which is la charreria, and the opportunity to, to proudly present and represent the city of Escondido with Charros of Escondido. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Greg Oliver.
Good evening, Council. I was a little surprised last week when I heard the fundraising letter that you sent out. So I got a copy and I read it, and it seemed pretty hyperbolic to me. I want to read a little bit of it. It all came to a head at our city council meeting last Wednesday. After nearly 5 hours of relentless testimony from out-of-town anti-ICE activist groups, our council majority held together and put an end to the ridiculous notion that we should terminate our contract with the Department of Homeland Security. My recollection is different than that. For 5 hours, speaker after speaker poured their hearts and fears into the chamber, requesting that you remove a perceived threat from our city. Characterizing that testimony as relentless or the work of outer-towners is a dismissal of your own community. The vast majority of these voices were locals, Escondido residents and organizations that live with the reality of this threat every day. And to echo the police chief who was up here earlier, I can tell you they truly care about this city. The reason that there were some non-residents here is that this has become a regional crisis. When 34 elected officials from across North County sign a letter asking you to cancel this contract, it's no longer just a local matter. This path is actively degrading the standard of safety and security for the entire region. You've characterized the request to terminate the contract as a ridiculous notion. But is asking for protection, safety, and due process from our leadership actually ridiculous? I don't think so. The mayor and council have claimed their hands are tied by our city manager-led form of government. But according to the organizational chart, the city manager is an at-will employee who reports directly to the council. Any delegation of power to him is temporary and revocable. You have the legal authority and the 10th Amendment right to say, as a city, we choose not to facilitate the training of federal agents whose current tactics are under constitutional review. You have a termination for convenience clause in that contract. You could have used it to protect the vulnerable. You just didn't. Finally, remember at the top of the org chart, the council reports to the electorate. And I propose the only ridiculous notion in play here is any expectation that any of you will be reelected.
Our final speaker is Alejandro Sanchez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Alejandro Sanchez. I live in the city of Escondido for the last 3 years, right Lincoln Avenue and Norfolk Street. It caught my attention 2 years, it started since 2 years ago. I started seeing some activity there around. First thing that I noticed is that somebody was selling right next to the, I don't know if you're familiar with the center, child center right there. They call it grain mines or something, I think. And right in front of them, they were selling coffee and I'm not exaggerating you, but I was better than Starbucks. And the traffic was so way overwhelming. I live right there on the corner. And I was like, what the hell are these people doing, you know? Well, we had the traffic from all these people who drop their kids right at the child care center. Then on top of it, all have these people coming in and getting their coffee. So I was not able even to get out. Now they're doing construction on the child center, and they're making big potholes. So I was forced and compelled to come to talk to the code enforcement officer. And I was so lucky and excited to find this guy. His name is Ruben Hernandez. Anybody knows this guy? He is my hero, you know? This guy is what the city really needs. Really. He's got the temper, the character, and he knows how to apply the law. That's what you have to do, apply the law. We cannot leave these people to get away with whatever they want. We have a land across the street on Lincoln Avenue right there. It belongs to us, right, to the city. It's empty. Now it looks like in LA, you know, people selling all over the place. Really concerns me a lot. I go, what are these people doing? Don't we have city councils here? I think I would like to have all these people go to Consuelo Martinez's house and selling everything right there. You know, that'll be great, but I'm not in my house. Not in my house. I paid $2,600 just not to enjoy it, because every time I had to go to these potholes and I had to go through the traffic. Thanks to, I don't know who complained about these people right away, and I don't see the coffee place there no more, but I still see people selling around right there on the corner on Lincoln Avenue in Norfolk. Do something, for God's sake. We cannot allow anybody coming and just selling their stuff. I know nobody likes to pay taxes, but for God's sake, there is a place and time for everything. I mean, if they wanted to sell their things, go to the swap meet, perhaps, or talk to you guys, city council members, and maybe the city manager can do something for these people. But certainly do not start making our place like
Thank you,
another
Mr.
LA.
Sanchez.
Thank
Your
you.
time has expired. No further public comment or oral
Will you,
communications.
sir, will you leave your contact information with the clerk? He's got it? Okay. Thank you. All right, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, but item 12, the animal control contract has been moved to a later date, and that brings us to our consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 7?
I'll second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, that brings us to our first public hearing, which is the authorizing the revocation of condition of approval specified. Yeah. Anyways, I will open the public hearing there and turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of the City Council. I'm Kevin Snyder, your Development Services Director. Thank you for the opportunity to present on this item this evening. Before I start, I did want to note that there are hard copies of the presentation in front of you in case you want to make notes. And as I go through my presentation, please do stop me if you have a clarifying question or you need me to repeat something that I said. So I wanted to start by framing the issues before you tonight in this public hearing. You have a request that has been presented to you previously during public comments and has been formally submitted to the city via the city clerk by an applicant for a development project in the city, Mr. Maury Golcha, to revoke a prior project condition of approval that required the payment of $560,000 towards a new traffic signal at Rock Springs Road and Lincoln Avenue. And I'm going to provide more history about this, but that is the request. As you consider this, it's important that we keep in mind that we need to balance the traffic safety needs of the community against fair and proportional exactions of developers. And also we need to implement the council priorities, in this instance being business friendly, building trust and accountability, and driving community and land development. As a little bit more background, the image on the left side of the screen, the property that is in orange is the property in question, the development project. That is located at the northwest corner of Mission Avenue and Rock Springs Road. The star on this image is the intersection of Rock Springs Roads and Lincoln Avenue, and it's approximately a quarter mile from the development site. So this development project has a somewhat long history in the city. It started back in 2019. City Council heard the project in 2021, and at that time, the City Council approved the project along with general plan amendment and zoning amendments to facilitate the development of the site. Fast forward to 2024, and the applicant came forward to City Council to ask for relief from one of the conditions of approval that required the applicant to construct the traffic signal at Rock Springs Road and Lincoln, and that was full construction. In 2024, specifically in December of 2024, the City Council determined to establish a cap, if you will, on the cost to the developer of $560,000 towards the construction of a traffic signal. Now, traffic signals back in 2024 were approximately, say, $700,000 to $750,000. So there was a cap. The developer was going to be capped in terms of his contribution. And then we come to present. In February of 2026, Mr. Golcha came forward through the city clerk with a formal request to ask for revocation of the requirement to pay the $560,000. He cited his inability to pay that based on some changes in his financing, and also his concern that the distance from the project site to the intersection at Rock Springs Road and Lincoln was, in his words, not mine, unfair. Upon receipt of this, I began an evaluation working with several different staff members within the City Hall structure. But starting, I reviewed the project record extensively, including the actions taken by City Council in December of 2024. I consulted with my team on engineering, consulted with the City Attorney's Office, the City Manager's Office, also consulted with the applicant to get more detailed about what the applicant could actually do, if anything, to support the ultimate installation of a traffic signal on Rock Springs Road and Lincoln Avenue. And as I'm sure you're aware, this is a high priority intersection for the city. It is a location where we do experience significant interactions around traffic safety and pedestrian safety. Based on these conversations and the inputs, I ultimately determined that there should be a city-sponsored effort to bring this before you for your consideration, and determined that it could come back to you directly, in part because of the action council took in December of 2024. So in evaluating this, when council considered Mr. Golshay's request in 2024, there was what was called a fair share analysis done. And this fair share analysis looked at what was the amount of traffic that was being generated by the project through the intersection at Rock Springs Road and Lincoln Avenue. And it used two methodologies, one that was based on Caltrans and one that was based on City of Temecula. And what it showed is that through that intersection, anywhere between 11% to 14% of the trips generated through that intersection were a result of Mr. Golshay's project. At that time, there was an alternative for council in December of 24 to consider having Mr. Golshay pay $78,000, which was considered the fair share contribution then. And the fair share approach, as back both in December of 2024 and currently, is a methodology that is consistent with federal court cases, specifically two court cases that established two tests, which are called the legal nexus and rough proportionality test. Basically, is there a nexus between the development impact and what's being asked of the developer, and is it proportionate to the impact? So that was the opportunity back in December of 2024, and I'm bringing back that opportunity this evening for the council's consideration. So in terms of options for you this evening, one option is to approve the resolution that is contained in tonight's agenda packet. This is the staff recommendation. Again, staff believes it's proportionate to the impacts. It would revoke the condition requiring the payment of $560,000 for the traffic signal. And I want to remind council, when we looked at this initially, we were trying to align any considerations around potential council action with your council priorities. So staff believes the revocation is a business-friendly action. This resolution would require two actions on the part of Mr. Golshay if council was to consider it. One was the payment of $50,000, and the other is the full and complete assignment of approved traffic signals plan. Mr. Golshay did go through the process of preparing, submitting, and having approved engineering plans by the city engineering department. And that is of value to the city, and I'll explain that in a little bit further detail. But it also, the resolution would require that failure to do number one and number two would result in the reinstatement of the condition for the $560,000 payment. Basically, if council took action this evening to relieve the obligation and Mr. Golshay failed to meet the two conditions of the resolution, then that requirement will go back into effect. The resolution would also reinforce that all other project conditions of approval remain in effect. So I want to go back briefly to the full and complete assignment of approved traffic signal plans. That is extremely valuable to the city in the sense that normally when you're doing a traffic signal project, you have to go through a multi-step process. The first part of that is design, the second part is a bid and award, and the third is construction. The full and complete assignment of those approved traffic plans, in essence, will mean that the cities can save a year in that process I just described. And to the benefit of this conversation, I have confirmed with the engineering team that there is available funding to complete that project in the next fiscal year. Another option for City Council is to not approve the resolution before you this evening. That would retain the requirement for the $560,000 payment, but it is uncertain whether the applicant could pay that amount and also whether the opportunity to complete the project would occur. And then there is the potential that if there is no contribution by the applicant, that at some point the city may have to complete that project without any contribution by the developer. The third option before the City Council this evening is another action that you identify. At this point, I'm going to turn it back to the mayor for the public hearing, but I do have some discussion questions to help in your deliberation once the public hearing testimony is complete. Thank you.
Are there any public comments?
None.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and then I just have a few questions for you. You already explained rough proportionality. Is the 7-Eleven that's on the other corner, is this replacing that one?
Yes, Mayor. So this project would be a currently branded 7-Eleven convenience market with fuel pumps.
Okay. I know you gave a couple examples. I think one was Caltrans and one was Temecula of the proportionality thing, but is it a common practice in cities?
So typically, when you're considering projects, you typically look at the traffic impacts of a project. And when you are considering exactions of the developer to mitigate those traffic impacts, typically you want to make sure that they're proportionate to the impact. That ensures that the city's not put in a liable position where we're asking too much of a developer.
Okay, that makes total sense. Is this something we have practiced previously, and what kind of a precedent does this set tonight if we were to approve that?
So in conversations with staff, yes, we have done fair share applications and other projects. This by itself does not set a precedent because we're simply assigning it back to what is a required and proven legal test.
Okay.
So there is no precedent setting by this action. Council in development projects, you review them on a case-by-case or situational basis. And so every project is going to have a different level of impact and a different level of appropriate exaction.
Okay, with the engineering plans.
Yes.
So can you walk us through just once more briefly, do we retain ownership of those regardless of what happens tonight, or under what circumstances do we get the plans?
So we do not retain ownership. What has to happen is that if you take action this evening, then we will be working with our city attorney's office to have an agreement with Mr. Golshay and also the engineer of record, because the engineer of record has intellectual rights to those, to execute an agreement that would give full and complete ownership of those plans. Once we have that agreement executed, then we are free to use them, but we cannot use them before that action.
Okay. My last two questions. If tonight we deny this outright, when could we expect that stoplight to be done?
So obviously that would be a follow-up conversation with the city council. There is funding available in our capital improvement program for that's unassigned at this point for traffic signal projects in the city, but obviously we would want to have a further conversation with city council through the capital improvement program consideration process to make sure that that is the priority that you want staff to focus on.
Okay, last question. Since it is proportionality, I noticed you said the $78,000 or the total cost of the intersection was calculated in 2024. So I'm assuming those costs have increased since then. And do we have that estimate and what the 10% of that would be?
So basically what you can expect is that signals, depending on several factors, potential acquisition of property, design costs, which would be potentially covered by this, and then construction costs with labor and materials. Your traffic signals can range anywhere from, say, currently $700,000 to $1 million. It just depends on the circumstances. The benefit that we have is we will have a one-time cash contribution from Mr. Golshay if you were to approve this resolution. That is in part to recognize there is an impact. And then the plans that were prepared have an approximate value of $50,000. So that $78,000 in 2024 is $100,000 of contribution today to mitigate the impact of the project to that intersection.
Understood. Okay, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it's very informative. My last two questions were the same as the mayor's last two questions, so I'll skip that. After speaking with the applicant, how confident is staff that the applicant cannot continue with the project at $560,000?
So Mr. Golshay has shared that he has had to seek new financing, that he is going through a party that is unwilling to finance off-site improvements, is only willing to finance on-site improvements. Typically, that's what's called a hard lender, and typically those hard lenders are going to be very focused on what they're willing to finance. He has shared that he has exhausted his financial capacity. He does have the capacity to do the one-time contribution of $50,000, but beyond that, he has indicated to me in conversations it would be difficult for him to complete the project, and he may have to consider ultimately selling the project or selling the plan approval and the site to another
Which
party.
would start the whole process
Potentially
all over
starting
again,
over.
increasing costs and delaying it. Okay, thank you so much. That's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was looking for the staff report from 2024. That's not in the packet, right? I see the report, the mitigation. I'm trying to find the staff report from before. Maybe it's here. But I recall there was something where we gave, and maybe I found it. Let's see. We gave somewhat of a concession to the developer when we were talking about this, and I can't find it. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yes, council member. So at that time, this was a negotiation, and at that time, the applicant was granted some release for frontage improvements along the property's frontage on Mission Avenue.
Yes.
The property is improved with current improvements now, sidewalk, gutter, and curb. Part of the consideration at the time was relief from undergrounding of overhead lines. I would note that having driven out the area, that on both sides of Mission Avenue, there are overhead lines, so this would have been just on the frontage of the property.
Okay, so what was the amount of benefit to the developer for that concession?
So at that time, staff estimated that the applicant could save in a range of approximately $600,000.
That's a lot of, yes.
Yes.
Because I remember, that's a really important key point, I think, when we're looking at this, because part of the reason that was granted to him was because he was going to have to build this light. So it was like, okay, you don't have to do both. So you won't have to do this, but you do have to do that. That was an agreement. That was the compromise back then. So I think to only pay $50,000 now from $560-something thousand to get this light, which, by the way, this light is I get complaints about this all the time. It's not even my district, and I get complaints about it. It's a dangerous area that needs, an intersection there, an intersection light. So it's really hard for me to justify that we have already given a concession and then we're going to once again consider another concession. This applicant has reached out to me, gosh, it's been like over a year, numerous times. And I do, empathize, because in business you always take risks and there's no guarantee of a profit. There's no guarantee that things will turn out. I mean, imagine the people who were building, high rises during, in 2008, 2009. But ultimately, that's a risk that you take doing business. And the fact that, things didn't pan out, you're with your finance company. There was also for a long time, there wasn't any activity on this site. But yeah, the fact that that's not I would have liked to see that in the evaluation of this, because I think that's a very important fact to note that this developer has already been given concessions, and he is asking for another huge concession that would delay a public safety project. So I'm going to go ahead and at this time I'm not supportive of $50,000, and so I would say that can we go back to the options. So I would say, unless I would move to, for number 2, don't approve resolution 2664.
I'll second that. But before we vote, I'd like to hear from the rest of the colleagues.
So I was wondering about the concessions because I did remember that there were concessions prior to this. And the last conversation that I had as the applicant approached me, and there may have been other council members, it was always just about, I don't have any money and you have to do this. You have to do this because I just don't have any money. And my concern with that is that do we still need this public safety light installed there? Is there still an issue? And as I understand, yes, there is. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like that there is an issue of, well, if somebody just complains, I don't have any more money, then we're gonna just say, oh, okay, you don't have to do $560,000 after all. And I'm concerned about that. Has there been any change, the data, the law, or the project scope regarding this, or is just a different approach that is being brought tonight?
So there's been no change in project scope, no change in data. Simply, Mr. Golshay has approached the city asking for, as was termed earlier, another concession. And so that is the item before City Council. I would note that in reviewing the record, there was concessions in 2024. My apologies to council, I focused on the immediate request, but yeah, out of fairness to the process, yes, there were prior concessions that the City Council negotiated in 2024 that resulted in that $560,000 payment requirement.
And then, was the original concession then imposed in error?
I do not want to, I was not part of the city at that time. It would be, I think, unfair to me to cast into judgment this decision-making, both of staff and City Council. I would simply say that in looking at the impacts to, the project impacts to the Rock Springs and Lincoln Avenue intersection, a fair share analysis is the, in my opinion, the appropriate methodology because it recognizes that there are other traffic impacts to that intersection that would not be caused by the project.
And so now the financial impact will be left for the city, not for the city and the taxpayers.
The financial impact, there would be a higher financial impact to the city. Again, Mr. Golshay, if the City Council was to accept the proposed resolution, he would contribute proportionate to his impact. The remainder of the cost of the intersection would be borne by the city because there are other traffic impacts beyond just his project.
And I don't see him here tonight.
Mr. Golshay did submit a written public comments. However, he had a conflict due to a religious holiday observation, and he apologized for not being able to attend.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so there would be additional cost to the taxpayers, but you said that the concessions that my colleague brought up were valued at what?
So in the staff report at that time, and the presentation that was shared with City Council, it was approximately $600,000.
And is that more or less than the expected additional cost to the city for the streetlight?
It's probably not going to fully cover the cost of the traffic signal. But again, the benefit that the city does get is those approved engineering plans. Otherwise, we will have to go out and do that design process. There will be a cost to the city to do that, both in time and money. But
and do you think that will total more than $600,000?
I would say that ultimately you are probably looking somewhere in the range of $700,000 to $800,000 for that traffic signal based on conversations with my team. Ultimately, I'm doing a little bit of supposition because we have not gone out and bid and awarded the project, so I can't conclusively tell you that, but these are rough estimates, rough order of magnitude.
Understood. I'm just trying to get I think we're all looking just for basically what's the better deal for the taxpayers? Do they pay more by us rejecting this, or do they pay more by us approving this?
The simple answer, Mayor, is that if the city receives the $560,000 payment, the taxpayers will pay less. The question is, will the city receive that $560,000 payment at any time? And Mr. Golshay has indicated he does not have financial capacity to do that.
Understood. That was exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
But, I'm sorry, can I clarify one thing? But if we, but at the same time, so if we don't receive that 560,000, and to what you indicated earlier, it's unlikely that we will, then if we do not accept this, then we will be ultimately paying more, and it will be a more lengthy process than if we do accept the application.
Councilmember, that's certainly a possibility,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So I'm struggling with trying to make a decision regarding this. You viewed this now as with a different approach than it was seen before, correct? Your analysis, your evaluation, I think, is what the slide said.
My evaluation was based on from a different lens, yes, Deputy Mayor, and I would say it was specifically focused on what was the appropriate exaction from the developer for impacts to the Rock Springs and Lincoln Avenue intersection.
So this is, and that's different than what was used before, right?
Correct.
Okay. And this evaluation being different now, what prompted you to look at that?
So a couple of things.
I'll call it, the city manager has asked Mr. Snyder to look at every single item in front of us and make sure that as he evaluates what's going on in the organization, we are going to be bringing forward change. So I think Kevin was speaking, precedent, legal precedent, but there are conversations to be had about what is proportional, what is exaction, what are we going to be doing shaping future conversations, right? One of the questions, and I think it is legitimate, is that there was some things granted to the applicant in the past. I think what we're facing is some uncertainty about whether the applicant can actually execute the project. That would mean, as I think Kevin is stating, you could be out everything, right? If the project doesn't move forward, there's no contribution, right? We don't know that that's a fact, but it is a threat to the project, right? Is underlying this is we don't own the intellectual property rights to the particular item, as was pointed out, nor do we own, do we have any contribution. Council can make a contribution at the future. What it does do is it ties this project to the ability of the applicant to move forward the project. At some point, and it may even be in the CIP as we go through it, this particular intersection will get a rating and there will be pressure to develop the project, right? So there are a lot of things that could be happening in the future, but I think some of the proportionality, we're learning how to apply that as an organization, and these are questions that are going to be in front of council moving forward. But the reason it's here is I've asked Kevin, with his lens, to look at these things and bring these things back for potential consideration of council before we move down a path. And he's presented three options, which are accept the New Deal, which you can do, reject the New Deal, or take no action tonight as three options, or some other consideration that you would want to counter propose to the applicant. But there is no reason for you to take an action. There are maybe some reasons that you want to consider taking an action, but this is part of that chart we talked about policy. There's going to be policy implications moving forward, but I wanted you aware that this was happening, and we're getting repeated calls from the applicant to bring this thing forward because there's a threat that the project won't move forward. And council had expressed some interest in that, not the full council, but I asked Mr. Snyder to look at this very particularly because you will be dealing with these issues moving forward. And a little bit of a conversation we need to have is what is an appropriate apportionment, right, on a particular impact area. So I would say by applying this, there might have been some different conversations about what the waiving of the other concession was. If it had been brought forward as only a $100,000 value, they were brought forward as an apportionment in that space. So there are some substantive conversations going on here, Deputy Mayor. They won't be precedent setting, but I'm telling you, we are looking at how we do business and how we charge a proportionality on impacts in areas. Because in the past, I will say, we've charged at a very, very, very aggressive rate. That's the what I will phrase it, to get some infrastructure done. And we're trying, I think there's a legal test here that has stood the test of time on proportionality, on impacts.
Okay, so are we moving to a different model somewhat now?
So I think the city manager said it very well. As we look at future development, one of my goals is that we bring to the council considerations that are appropriate to the scale and impact of the development. The lens is maybe not different, it may be refined, and we will report to you what we believe we can reasonably do within the legal parameters that we operate in. Those two tests that I mentioned, the nexus, the rough proportionality, these are tests that have been around for 30+ years. Lots of local governments have had to work within the confines of those tests. I'm sure our city attorney could extol for a very long time on them, but the simple fact is that we have to balance the needs of the community with what's fair and proportionate to the impacts caused by development. And that's the test that many local governments go through. The city has gone through it and other considerations. This is unique because there was a prior negotiation that the applicant participated in and agreed to at that time. So the council members that were present at that time, you're absolutely right. He has now come back to you with another request for relief. And from my lens, looking at it, the fair share analysis was the appropriate lens to ensure that we have a balanced approach.
And that would have been your recommendation from the very beginning?
If I was president in 2024 in the role that I am now, yes, I would have made that recommendation. It was actually part of your considerations in 2024. There was the fair share analysis, which was presented as a decision-making alternative. The $78,000 that I referenced earlier was identified by staff at that time. The city council chose a different alternative, which was the $560,000. But yes, I would have recommended the fair share at that time.
Could I add one other kind of unique part of this? There are times in the past where we have had exactions for development. And typically, if the developer believes that we've overreached in that space, I can remember one with the North Broadway deficiency area, where the developer appealed that and then went to council, and there was some specifics, and this was timely within, around the time of the exaction. So this has gained some distance in time from 2021 when it was first done. Now we're in 2026. But you'll often find in the case where they believe that we've overreached, they will be making a legal argument that will bring it to us. I will bring it to you as part of a settlement discussion or in some other litigation mode. So that's just a little bit unique how this is coming to you as a way of repeated requests from Mr. Golich because of his financial circumstances.
Yeah, and I'm struggling with it. This last question was very, very important for me to make a decision because it certainly seemed like I would be concerned if this was something that, well, I don't have any money, okay, let's figure out how we're going to do it. I would be very concerned if that was the way that we were doing. That's why I asked the question, all right, how we got here. I think we did the best that we could and we made the decision. But he didn't make an appeal. He's just saying, forgive me the amount of money that I agreed to pay. That's what it's really at, because I don't think we have an appeal in front of us.
Deputy Mayor, you do not have an appeal in
There's
front
no
of you.
appeal.
This is simply a request 2 years on from when that negotiated amount was identified and agreed to by the council and agreed to by the applicant. His circumstances as portrayed by him have changed, and he is asking the city council for reconsideration. As the city manager pointed out, you're under no obligation to make any decisions tonight. We simply wanted to bring this in front of you so that it could have a proper airing, and you as a council could decide the next appropriate action, if any.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman?
Actually, I don't have any questions. There were a lot of really good questions, and I had everything answered. I'm kind of leaning towards not making a decision tonight. So I'd like to, you motion to make a decision already?
Do you mind if
Okay,
I interrupt with a follow-up question?
Sure.
I was going to ask this anyways, but how hard would it be for us to see an estimate of the cost of what we're talking about, plus 10%? How do I even word this? I want to see it on paper, including the concessions that he's already received and the value of all of that versus not doing it. Because I actually really like this idea, but the previous concessions are already a substantial amount. So I would like to see a comparison of the both, and I'd be willing to withdraw my second and continue the item if that was the case and we could see that.
Mayor, we can prepare that information if that's the direction of city council.
One last question. You said you would have approved it. Would you have approved it? Would you have recommended approval along with those other concessions?
Again, I want to be careful about not casting judgment on when I was not here. I believe that you're always in the strongest negotiating position when you're dealing with improvements immediately adjacent to a project. So I may have raised the question, certainly, whether that was the right concession. And I may have advocated to city management, city attorney, and city council that the fair share analysis be the approach. But again, I want to be careful because I was not part of that process, and it would be inappropriate for me to cast too much
Understood.
judgment.
That was helpful enough. And because I'm with you. But if by chance there's a way to do this that's better for the taxpayer, then maybe it's not such a bad idea. But I'd like to see a comparison with today's value of what we're talking about versus 2024.
Happy to provide that if that's the direction of city council.
Okay.
Are you withdrawing your second?
I'm going to withdraw my second. I'm going to withdraw my second and make a motion to continue the item to a future date with that information. Okay. Sorry. I'm with you. You know what I mean? I am. Does anybody have anything else? There's a motion and second to continue the item. If not, please vote.
And real quick, prior to vote, to clarify, the continuation of the item is not the continuation of this exact item. It's going to come back in a different iteration, correct?
Oh, yeah. So can I request? Can we do that?
It's not just. This is
Okay,
just
perfect.
continuing the item. Yeah, not.
Yeah, that's all you're going to
Okay,
do.
just want to clarify. Thank you. Voting is open. Motion approved, 4-1. Councilmember Christian Garcia, no.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
We'll move on to item 9, which is a public hearing to consider a second substantial amendment to the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan to allocate home funds to Valley Creek Senior Apartments. And I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Danielle Lopez. I am your Housing and Neighborhood Services Manager. With me this evening is Norma O'Keen, Management Analyst overseeing the Home Program. Tonight we'll be holding the second public hearing regarding the approval of the second substantial amendment to the Home Program, which was originally presented and discussed at the March 4th City Council meeting. On the agenda this evening will be a brief background on the home program, including our outreach efforts and public comments. A review of the proposed amendment we'll be recommending for approval and discussion. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to conduct the second public hearing to approve the second substantial amendment to the Consolidated and Annual Action Plans, to award National Core and San Diego Community Housing Corporation, or SDCHC, $3 million for an affordable housing development, the Valley Creek Senior Apartments. So here we have a reminder of what home funds can be used for, as well as the reaffirmed consolidated plan priorities. The amendment proposed this evening is in line with the first two consolidated plan priorities to support the development and preservation of affordable rental and home ownership units, and second, to expand access to supportive services to prevent and reduce homelessness, promote housing stability, and foster long-term solutions. Here we have what's been done leading up to this meeting so far. On October 15th, the City Council received an in-depth presentation on the status of the home program. At that meeting, staff were directed to explore options to expand home programming and bring back proposals for consideration. On March 4th, Council held two public hearings. The first approved an amendment to expand our rental subsidy program, and the second was to hear options for the use of expiring and available home funds. Based on council direction at that meeting, staff drafted the amendment to the plans to include allocating $3 million in home funds to an affordable housing development, the Valley Creek Senior Apartments. March 5th through April 3rd was the 30-day public comment period. 6 public comments were received. All 6 comments were very similar. They were not necessarily opposed to affordable housing development. However, they were advocating that the home funds being considered this evening be used for additional financial assistance for our residents versus the Valley Creek project. Additionally, they voiced their concerns that due to the time it took to bring this amendment forward, the viable options for deployment of the expiring funds were significantly limited. On March 25th, staff hosted a community meeting to inform the public of the potential substantial amendment, answer questions, and receive feedback on the plan. 6 people attended the meeting, including John Seymour from National Core. After staff's presentation, Mr. Seymour provided an overview of the project and addressed questions from the public regarding the history of the project, financials, and programs that would be offered on the premises. The majority of the questions received by staff focused on the 2018 expiring home funds and why the other options presented, specifically the supplemental tenant-based rental assistance program, were not feasible. And that brings us to tonight's meeting, the second public hearing to approve the submittal of the proposed substantial amendment to HUD. So regarding the public comment, we'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that we do recognize the significant need for rental and financial assistance within our community. And we want to emphasize that the city has taken steps to support these needs. As you may recall, the city previously funded Escondido Education Compact in the amount of $1.3 million in CDBG CV funding to provide rental, mortgage, and utility assistance, essentially exactly what the public has been requesting in their comments. With that and the previous action to expand the city's rental subsidy program to $500 a month and expanding the applicants from 30 to 64, we have allocated $1.7 million in rental assistance programming this year. Since receiving the funding, since receiving the funding about 6 months ago, Compact has assisted 60 households with rental and or mortgage assistance, totaling approximately $184,000. They've assisted 53 households with utility assistance, totaling $34,000. And they currently maintain an interest list of approximately 200 people. They currently have 5 dedicated staff to administer the program, and they're working through the interest list as quickly as possible. They have indicated that it takes 2 weeks to a month to acquire all the necessary documentation and then qualify the households for funding. I also want to point out that this program is paying the full month's rent and full month's utility bills versus our program that pays just the $500 subsidy. With all that said, we remain committed to exploring additional partnerships and opportunities to expand rental assistance resources, and we will continue the community conversation. So to the public, please continue to reach out to us with ideas and opportunities you may come across. Same to you, council members, and we will keep an eye out for those opportunities as well. So moving on to our proposed substantial amendment this evening, as I presented on March 4th, the proposed substantial amendment would allocate home funds to National Core and San Diego Community Housing Corporation for the Valley Creek project. The project will create a 100% affordable senior housing development consisting of 136 units, along with site amenities and supportive services. Of those 136 units, 14 are proposed to be set aside for senior veterans who are experiencing homelessness or are at risk of becoming homeless. National Core and SDCHC both have extensive experience developing and operating affordable housing communities that include long-term affordability, resident services, and supportive programs. This amendment includes allocating approximately $583,000 in home funds that are currently scheduled to expire, as well as approximately $2.4 million in future home funds, which generally reflects the remaining available balance from years 2019 through 2023. The project would serve seniors at 30 to 60% area median income, or AMI, which is one of the more difficult ranges to serve in today's housing market. It would also include on-site supportive services, including a daycare component that is expected to be open to the public. Another benefit of this project is that the developer is willing to provide reasonable local preference for Escondido residents, as long as it is structured in compliance with fair housing law. That could potentially be done through tools such as geographic leasing preference, a tiered lottery system, or set-aside quotas. In addition, this option allows the city to commit several years of available home funds, reducing the risk that funds would need to be returned in the future. That concludes our presentation, and we are happy to discuss further after the public hearing. We have the developer here as well to answer any questions you may have.
Did you have a presentation, or do you want your 10 minutes? No. Perfect. All right, then we'll close the public hearing. And I don't really have any questions. I'll just say
Mr. Mayor, sorry, we will have public comment.
public comments. Yes, sorry about that.
So if you don't mind reopening the public hearing, just real quick, sorry, yeah. Sorry about that. Cool. Lisa Richards, yeah, there you go. Oh, cool.
My name is Lisa Richards. I'd like to ensure it's on the record that the City of Escondido does have an alternative to allocating these $583,000 plus in home funds to a county-led project, particularly when the developer has indicated that other funding sources are available. For the record, each council member has been provided with a proposal outlining this alternative. The proposal revisits option 4 presented by staff on March 4th and demonstrates that if the city chooses, these funds could instead be used to support the more than 5,000 Escondido residents currently on the Section 8 wait list and residents who are currently unhoused or at risk of losing their housing. The city has the opportunity to meet this moment in our housing crisis by implementing a one-time emergency rental subsidy program with a truly income-based approach rather than a flat $500 subsidy these funds could be fully expended with as few as 30 households. The details have been given to you. The city has held these funds for nearly 9 years. I respectfully urge you to use them now to address the immediate needs of Escondido residents rather than allocating them to a project that is not dependent on this funding. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Laura Hunter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Laura Hunter. We did submit a letter sent on April 3rd that outlines our collective position of many people that signed and do support the plan and the comments that Lisa just made. I think it was ironic that the police chief noted homelessness needs a collaborative approach. Home funds are perfect for that, and you don't always get money that you can spend in this way. And so we don't understand why you would not want to spend this money, this old money, in a way to help people now. The Trump administration, you may have heard, has just killed a VA loan program that has caused 10,000 veterans to lose their homes, and 90,000 veterans are at risk, most of them through no fault of their own. It was just reported 2 days ago. This idea that somehow capacity or takes too long, it's really not credible. You can spend some of these home funds on staffing and administration to do it. Other cities are successfully doing this program, other entities, Arcata, Imperial County, counties of Glenn, counties of San Benito, they're all doing it. We have to really look at our situation right now, and people need help right now. Cost of living is up, the war is weakening the economy, people really need help, and this is one of very few sets of funds that you can use in this way. Time is really passing on this, and it feels like a lot of foot dragging since October 15th. But if you don't vote on this to direct staff to do this, then it will we have to consider that you're voting against this tenant-based funding. So I really urge you to find a way to use all or some of this money that's available to help people now. We like the idea of the Valley View in the project in the future, but that has other places to get money. These funds are precious, and they can be used in this very special way. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Richard Cannon.
Hello, my name is Richard Cannon. I'm an Escondido resident, District 2. I'm here today to kind of reiterate a lot of the comments that the public has made already. I wanted to clearly state for the record that the City of Escondido has a viable alternative to allocating this $600,000 to home funds to a county-led development, especially given that the developer already mentioned that it's not dependent on these funds and it will be built anyway. So you really have the opportunity to say, I want to build this great affordable housing complex, and that's it. Or I want to build this great affordable housing complex and also help thousands of Escondido residents afford a housing and potentially get hundreds of people off the street as well. Each council member has already been provided with this proposal. I'm asking that you sincerely consider that. This revisits option 4 presented by the staff on March 1st. And shows that these funds could be directly used to assist more than 5,000 Escondido residents currently on the Section 8 wait list and residents who are currently unhoused or at risk of losing their housing. The constraint here isn't feasibility, it's prioritization. You make decisions every week that have an immediate and life-impacting effects on the city and the city residents. Today is one more example where you can say, yes, we have the chance to help thousands of Escondido residents, to get hundreds of people off the street if we just decide to take a little bit of time and effort to put these home funds into rental assistance, getting people off the street, and this tenant-based rental assistance program. So, again, these funds have been sitting unused for nearly 9 years. At a time of clear and urgent housing needs, choosing not to use them for immediate relief, which these thousands of Escondido residents need this immediate relief, when a workable plan is right in front of you, would be a missed opportunity to meaningfully support your residents. I urge you to prioritize this direct and immediate assistance to use these funds to address the housing crisis in Escondido now, rather than allocating them to a project that does not require them to move forward. So really the options that you have today are have the complex built and help thousands and thousands of Escondido residents. Thank you for your time.
No further public comments on this item.
Now it's closed. I'll turn it over to my colleagues. I'll come back for mine. Go ahead.
Thank you. Let's see. I think there was a slide with options, right? Did you have that? Okay.
The options from the last
Yeah,
presentation?
this is it, right?
Yes.
And I know we ended up saying, option 2, right?
It was actually option 1, which I removed, which is
Oh.
what we presented today.
Got it, okay.
And then these are the other 4.
Okay. And this is considered a hearing, so it's like an extension of, soliciting community input, and you had a meeting like a week ago, right, or so?
Correct.
So I think this Valley Creek Senior Apartment, I understand why it was proposed, and I do support the project, of course, and supporting this. I think just since then, I have been reached out to by various constituents about wanting to do more on the rental subsidy. I'm grateful that Compact is helping our families. Thank you, Compact, for the work that you're doing with the Families First program, and I'm happy to see that you have an interest list of 200 people, and hopefully they can get the documentation they need to do that. So just important information and points from the public have come to light since the last time we met. So I would be very interested in hearing from the project applicant. Do you, on this question of, do you already, if for some reason we were, I don't know if this is going to happen because my colleagues have to agree, but if for some reason the $583,000 was a lesser amount, I've heard several members of the public mention that you already kind of have other options to line up funding for this project. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ted Miyaharas, President and CEO of San Diego Community Housing Corporation. We are the joint venture developer with National Core. The notion of this project is proceeding with or without city money. That's just not true. Part of the process of bringing these deals forward is securing local subsidy. We have to date secured a DDA with the County of San Diego. As you all know, this is county-owned land. And so part of this process is coming to the city, looking for subsidies. To your question of the $583,000, we do need it. We need the full $3 million. This is part of assembling financing so that we can go to the state, secure bonds from the state, secure low-income housing tax credits from the state, local contributions from the city, help solidify this deal and help us become more competitive to secure those resources.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. So yeah, I wanted to hear from you because I've been hearing, from the public that it was mentioned at one of the meetings that either way, I think it was the other applicant, I don't think it was you, that may have mentioned that they had secured funding with or without Escondido, they would be able to move forward with the project as
Yep.
far as funding goes.
Yep, and if I may,
Sure.
this is 136 homes for seniors. This is a permanent development, right? 55-year deed restriction. That ensures these units are here essentially in perpetuity because we have to recapitalize the project at some point, and then we will recast that affordability restriction for another 55 years. And so while shallow subsidies or temporary tenant assistance, they're good programs, but there will come a point where that money runs out, and then what? Where do those tenants go? We're talking about permanent homes for seniors, affordable housing in perpetuity.
Thank you. Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I've been singing your praises the last week, so thank you guys so much for the work you guys do. That's exactly what I wanted to hear is, I had the same question as my colleague here. And I think it's really important to point out that the project is in perpetuity. I was probably one of the biggest critics when the project first came, so full disclosure. But as I've studied it and I've come around to understand the importance of it. Regarding the additional subsidy, I did the math, and if we were to offer $1,000 per unit. That would be 49 units if 100% of it was to go to subsidies, which we know that wouldn't, because I think there would be administrative costs and everything. 49 units for 1 year, and then after that, it would be, those funds would be finished. Alternatively, if we were to fund 5,000 Escondido residents, we would only have $116 for all of those applicants for the entire year. So we're looking at something like $10, $11, $10.50 a month. You know, that's $10 is not nothing, but it definitely is not going to help subsidize, you know, your rent. So I think even if we were to go to the subsidize it, I just don't think that that's actually a pretty efficient or long-term solution, as opposed to something that would be in perpetuity and that would house 128 people indefinitely. So those are all my comments. Thank you guys so much.
Question for you. Is the $3 million, is that all the money we have to expend?
Well, we have additional, we get our annual allocations. So that'll be coming before you in early June or late May, and that will be approximately $600,000, where we will allocate an additional, every year we'll be allocating the $388,000 that was previously approved to expand our rental subsidy program. That will be allocated on an annual basis. And then there will be the admin and the other set aside. So
Okay.
we do get funding every year. So we have committed to fund the rental subsidy program with $388,000 every year.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I see both sides of this equation, but I agree with Councilman Garcia and the developer about having permanent solutions, and especially in a city like Escondido where seniors, I think, are the fastest growing population and have the fewest places to go. And it makes me feel a little better knowing that we will refill. I know it's not going to be $580,000, but it will be close to that, and then the rental subsidy program can continue. I have a question for you. And it's with respect to local preference. Previously, I met with some other developers who said we cannot do that. But I think that's a big sticking point for me, is if the taxpayers in Escondido are going to put this money forward, that the money go to benefit people who are local. So walk me through that a little bit.
Sure, it's a great question, Mayor. But I don't see any reason why the city could not impose a local preference. San Diego Community Housing Corporation, along with National Core, built the last affordable housing development, Valley Senior, on Valley Parkway. And in the city's loan documents, there actually was a local preference. We have seen other jurisdictions, I think Santa Ana is one of them, where an ordinance was passed in regards to local preference. We will make every effort to impose a local preference. Guidance from the city having loan documents that would otherwise require that is not an issue for us. We are using certain funding sources. There are 12 VASH vouchers. We intend to house former veterans. That comes through the county's program. The county is the administrator of those project-based vouchers, and we have to go through their program rules. So we'd love to have a local preference. We want to build housing for the communities that we're in and make impact in the communities that we build. So we would look for the city's guidance. We would be happy to pass along ordinances that we have seen in other jurisdictions to help with that process.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Thank you for the presentation and the comments. I had exactly the same question that was asked to you regarding the funding for this and the necessity, so you've answered the question. Thank you very much for that. Senior housing is necessary, and is it necessary now? Yeah, absolutely it is. As I chat with seniors in different places, they're constantly talking to me about that, and a lot of them have been very happy of the increases that we have made, substantial increases in the rental assistance. I wish we could do both, but at this point, it certainly seems like that the best investment of our current funds in the way that we have it right now would be to approve this. So, thank you.
I don't have any questions. And I do echo what my colleague said regarding supporting this project. And one thing that still is important to me, and I'm glad it was mentioned again, that the focus is going to be also on the homeless seniors and the homeless senior veterans, which is, you know, we are having a growing senior community, but the homeless senior and senior veterans are one that are very underserved. So I'm really glad that we're going to be doing that in our city. Thank you.
And Mayor, can I add, if there's an interest in the council, my office can certainly look at the local preference provisions. If that, I would think that would be something you'd be interested in.
Yes, thank you.
That being said, I'd just like to move to approve the recommendations presented by staff.
Just to be clear, which recommendation?
Oh, well, it's to approve the $3 million to the National Core Valley Creek project.
Perfect. I'll second that. And if there's no other comments or questions, please vote.
Motion approved.
5-0.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to current business. Item 10, the General Plan's 2025 Housing Element Annual Progress Report.
Alrighty, good evening, City Council. My name is Priscilla Roldan. I am an associate long-range planner. I work here at the city and I work in development services. And today I'm here to provide a presentation on the 2025 Housing Element Annual Progress Report. The item before you is purely informational, meaning that there is no formal action required from you all tonight. So here's a quick overview of tonight's presentation. I will start off today's presentation with a basic information about the housing element. I'll then follow with the city's progress towards meeting the housing element annual progress towards meeting the regional housing needs allocation, which is the number of housing units local jurisdiction needs to aim and build for, plan for within a planning period. Thereafter, I will touch on notable projects that were approved during the 2025 calendar year before concluding with next steps. So Escondido's housing element lives within the city's general plan, and the general plan is the city's overarching policy document that sets the vision for how communities will grow and develop in the future. Every legislative decision, every document in theory needs to be consistent with the general plan. And the general plan consists of various chapters that touch on important different topics, including land use, traffic circulation, safety, and open space. And the fourth chapter of the general plan is the housing chapter, also known as the housing element. And the housing element is updated every 8 years in accordance with state law. The City Council adopted an update to the housing element back in 2021 and amended it in 2023. But prior to that, back in 2020, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as HCD, and the San Diego Regional Council of Governments, also known as the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG, looked at the projected population growth, expected housing need, and determined that the entire region will need to build a total of 171,685 units by 2029 in order to accommodate the region's changing population. This 171,685 unit total was then distributed among the 19 jurisdictions within the San Diego region. That includes 18 cities as well as the county, and Escondido was given a total regional housing needs allocation of 9,607 units. That number was then broken down by income level, which includes very low, low, moderate, and above moderate income. When it comes to housing element reporting, projects don't begin counting towards this being a number, this 9607, until they begin reaching the building issuance stage. And so to give you a bit of background on how permitting works, just very high level, Residential projects generally go through the permitting process that can be broken down into 3 major milestones or steps. That includes the entitlement, the building permit issuance stage, as well as the final inspection stage, where the entitlement stage is when an applicant submits an application to the planning services area and works with city staff to ensure that the project meets local zoning standards as well as safety standards. The building permit issuance stage is when an applicant can move forward with grading and construction of the project, and the final building inspection stage is when the city ensures that the project meets the approved plans as well as safety codes through inspections. Once a project reaches stage 2, which is the building permit issuance stage, then it can be counted towards the regional housing needs allocation, that 9607 number that was provided in the previous slide. So staff have been tracking the city's progress towards meeting the regional housing needs allocation every year since 2021. The first year that we began tracking, or staff began tracking, there were a total of 249 units that were issued building permits and that were counted towards the RHNA goal. Year 2, in 2022, there were a total of 231. Year 3, 2023, 608. Year 4, 408. And then year 5, which was 2025, was 379 for a grand total of 1,875 units. This is what the city's RHNA progress looks like, broken down by percentage and in a graph. So the city has reached a total of 28% of its above moderate income goals, 4% of its moderate, 17% of its low income goals, and as well as 10% of its very low income goals. And overall, the city has achieved a total of 24% of its total regional housing needs allocation goal. Some entitled projects reported in the 2025 annual progress report include the ISCON Density Bonus Project that will subdivide a parcel located southwest of Daly Ranch to build 8 market rate housing, single-family housing units, as well as 2 low-income single-family housing units. The city's first pre-approved ADU projects, which are a result of the city's efforts to streamline ADU permitting in the city, and the city's first Assembly Bill 2011 project, which is a proposed housing project within a lot currently zoned as a commercial space. And overall, most entitled units in 2025 included multifamily units at 69%, followed by ADUs 27%, and single-family units at 4%. In 2025, the city also saw a notable number of previously entitled projects receive building permits. So typically, when it comes to permits reported, we see permits receive issued building permits from like entitled projects that were received a year or 2 prior. But this year we saw subdivision projects from 2015, 2016, and 19. And that's part of the reason why you see an even split within the graph here. Some prior subdivisions that have resurfaced include a 21-unit subdivision from 2015 located east of Harmony Grove, known as Amanda Estates, a 55-lot subdivision project approved in 2018 near Kit Carson Park, known as Sonora Hills, and the Northeast Gateway subdivision project approved in 2023. Multifamily projects that were issued building permits in 2025 include the Rosegate and Canterbury Gardens projects. So projects that have passed the final building inspection stage include Palomar Heights Apartments, now known as the Merlot Apartments, Dixon Trails, and approximately 87 single-family units that were also named in the previous slide. That includes Amanda Estates and Sonora Hills. So when it comes to housing element programming and implementation, some staff successes were the launch of the pre-approved ADU program, completion of a 4.5 request for proposal to build affordable housing, changes to the consolidated plan, as you just saw in the earlier presentation, and we are continuing to work on the programmatic implementation, so staff will continue to coordinate with HCD on priority programs. That includes updates to ordinance and implementation of new programs. Additional information can be also found on Table D of your staff report. In terms of next steps, staff will be resubmitting the housing element APR. So previously, the housing element was submitted in order to comply with the April 1st deadline. And so now that we have presented to you all, we will resubmit to finalize the reporting process. And in the near future, our newest long-range planners will come forward with additional annual progress reporting that includes the general plan and the climate action plan. That concludes staff presentations, and we welcome any questions.
Do we have any public comments?
None.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation and for the update. I have no questions, and I'll turn it over to the council.
Thank you so much. I have no questions.
Thank you. So I had a question on the Palomar Heights project. I don't know if you can give me this information off the top, but I always thought that was like over 500 units. Do we double check that they build to the number of units that they have? Because I remember being like 500 units, and somewhere else I had heard 3 something, and then in your presentation you just said 361. Can I get some, how many units are really there? Because I remember being a higher number.
I can definitely see how it can be confusing because I talk about these projects during the different stages. So the project was entitled at 510 units, with 258 apartment units, 90 senior apartment units, and 162 row homes. And as the project progresses towards its building issuance stage and the final certificate of occupancy, those units are issued individually or by building, and so they kind of divorce that total,
Okay,
and
good.
you get to see them trickle through the progress.
Okay, good, because I was like, they underbuilt, you know? So anyways, so that
Great
doesn't
question.
necessarily mean that's the case. So is there currently 510 units on that, or are they still building?
To my knowledge, they built up to the amount that was
Okay.
entitled.
We can get you
I
that
think if you-
information. I
yeah.
wouldn't want to put Priscilla in
Okay.
having to respond to that in the
Well,
moment.
if you knew Priscilla, I wouldn't want you to say it
I
yet.
will confirm for you.
Please, I'm curious because I want to know if they built the number that they said they were going to build. Oh, we have somebody coming up. Hi, Veronica.
We can just go ahead and answer that question
Oh,
right now.
good.
Thank you. Veronica Morones, Assistant Director of Development Services. So they currently have built out 420 of the 510
Okay,
units.
good.
So
Okay.
the 90 senior units are located on the pad across Valley Boulevard, and those are yet to be constructed.
Okay, thank you. See, I pay attention to these numbers. I'm like, I remember things. Okay, great to know. It seems like such a daunting number, the 9,000, you know, but we're, you know, making some progress. We still have, I'd like to see us, I think in the middle income housing and others, you know, but I know that we'll get there. We're gonna get there. So, thanks for this progress report. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, and thanks for answering the question, because I had been wondering about that project.
So it's good to have the annual progress on the housing element coming forward. We are behind, but it tends to be that we're always behind. But I hear from other jurisdictions that they're behind too. So as we continue moving forward and pressing to get to where we need to get, I'm encouraged that we will continue to be moving in the right direction. 9,607, yeah, that is a lot. And some of my colleagues in other jurisdictions feel that Escondido has been penalized with so much housing because of certain aspects, but that's a discussion for another day. So anyway, thank you very much.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for this very detailed and updated report. I appreciate your team.
If there's nothing else, thank you. Moving on to item 11, the adoption of a donation policy for reviewing gifts offered to the city of Escondido.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. My name is Nicole Lindsay, and I'm a management analyst in the City Manager's Office. Tonight, I will be presenting for your consideration a donation acceptance policy, which would establish a citywide framework for evaluating gifts offered to the city of Escondido. During my presentation, I will provide a general overview of the policy, including its purpose and goals. I'll review the scope and outline the general process, specifically reviewing what happens after staff receive a donation offer, the role of both council and staff, and the criteria used to determine whether to accept or decline an offer. I'll highlight some special donation categories, specifically that of artifacts, public art, and real property. Finally, I'll conclude by reviewing the key benefits and ask council to consider the staff recommendation.
Tonight, my goal is to present a transparent and consistent process for evaluating donations offered to the city. While the city has historically received donation offers, it has not had a formal process or policy in place. Over the coming months, we anticipate several donation offers to come before you. In anticipation for these offers and others that will come, we have developed this framework to evaluate gifts. Following my presentation, Council will be asked to consider adopting Resolution Number 2026-45 to adopt a citywide donation policy. Let's start first with why a donation policy is needed. The city regularly receives donation offers from a variety of sources: individuals, community groups, and nonprofit organizations. Although donations reflect strong community engagement and an intention to benefit the city, gifts also come with a cost, with immediate and long-term responsibilities. By accepting a gift, the city may also be accepting a financial obligation, legal liabilities, maintenance responsibilities, and/or operational impacts. Before accepting a gift, the city must account for those costs. Historically, because there was no policy, donations were evaluated inconsistently through a variety of department-led practices and individual council actions. A donation policy would establish a consistent process throughout the city for evaluating and accepting. What does the policy cover? Let's first start with defining what a donation is. Donations, again, come in a variety of forms: cash or monetary contributions, personal or real property, public artwork or artifacts, equipment or in-kind goods and services, securities, endowments, or other assets. In short, a donation is anything that the city has accepted and for which the donor has not received any goods or services in return. Though the policy does address donations of all values, it is primarily focused on donations valued $5,000 or greater, as well as all donations of artifacts, public art, and real property. The next 3 slides will go over artifacts, public art, and real property, giving both a definition and a concrete example. Artifacts. Artifacts are items from representatives of foreign or domestic governments, business leaders, sister cities, private citizens, or organizations offered to express appreciation or foster diplomatic exchange, goodwill, or to symbolize a significant event or relationship with the city. For example, our giving arch is an artifact, as it was a gift from a business leader and private citizen through the charitable foundation. The gift was given in the spirit of community giving. Public artwork. As defined in the policy, as well as in line with the public art strategic plan, public artwork is any form of art in any medium, including but not limited to sculpture, murals, installations, and digital media. Queen Califia's Magical Circle, located in Kit Carson Park, is a great example of public art donations. Donations of public artwork will be evaluated using additional criteria and a specialized process that includes the Public Art Commission. The Public Art Strategic Plan, which was adopted unanimously in September 2024, outlines the role of the Public Art Commission. Those commissioners are appointed by the City Council to serve 2-year terms and are responsible for developing an annual work plan for new commissions. Their involvement in evaluating these donations is pivotal to ensure that the proposed artworks are artistically strong, appropriate for the site, consistent with city policy, and feasible for the city to accept, maintain, and steward over time. And the final special category, real property. These are donations of physical land and any improvements thereon, as well as the associated ownership rights.
For example, a donation of real property might be a property owner donating a vacant parcel of land to the city with the intention that it be used for a public park. Now that we've explained what is included within the policy and defined key terms, what does the policy not cover? The policy does not replace existing administrative directives, specifically AD 47, which explains donations of tickets, and AD 49 of donations of roadside park and other memorials. Additionally, naming rights are not addressed within the donation policy because they involve a more complex and nuanced discussion with you. Factors such as duration, eligibility thresholds, valuation, approval authority are inherent to naming rights and require exploration. For that reason, naming rights will be addressed in a separate policy, so this effort of adopting a donation policy can move forward without delay. Until that policy is adopted, no naming rights or naming recognition may be granted unless special circumstances permit. This slide outlines the general process for accepting donations. Over the next few slides, I'll go into each arrow or each step further, but I'd like to outline the whole process first. All donation offers, ideally, should follow this process. A donor should submit their offer in writing. Once the city receives that, they will route that to the benefiting department for a staff review. Staff will evaluate the gift based on standards outlined within the policy and which are articulated later on in the presentation. If the donor asks for particular restrictions, meaning the gift can only be used in a certain way, or if the gift requires immediate or long-term financial obligations, an additional financial review will be required. Following the staff reviews, the city is equipped with the information required to make the determination to accept or reject the gift. Authority to make this decision on behalf of the city is based on the total value, the nature, and the circumstances of the proposed donation. Once that decision is made, notification will be sent to the donor to explain our decision, and to offer thanks. This slide provides further details about the first step. The donation offer should be made in writing. To assist both donors and staff, we have created a form to be used by donors that captures key information about the gift: donor contact details, a description of the gift, its value, the intended purpose. These forms will be published online in both English and Spanish, and will be required for all donations valued $5,000 or greater, all artifacts, real property, and public art. You'll note, because the public artwork process is unique and different, it has its own form that allows for additional space for items about the artist and the artwork to be articulated. Once a donation offer has been received by the city, the offer will be routed to the benefiting department. Those staff members will then be responsible for evaluating the gift based on these acceptance criteria. Is the gift consistent with city laws and policies? Are there any liabilities? And are there any mitigation actions available or required in order to accept the gift? Or are we comfortable taking on those liabilities? Consideration of the cost of ownership and if those costs are reasonable. And as a reminder, those costs would include immediate expenditures, long-term city expenditures or resources, and/or maintenance obligations. And finally, consideration of whether the restrictions, meaning what the donation can be used for, is acceptable to the city. I'd like to call attention to these last two items, both the cost of ownership or donor restrictions. If either of those are in place, this will trigger an additional review, this time by the finance department. Finance's responsibility is for evaluating whether the proposed restriction is administrable and to set up the systems for appropriate accounting and tracking. Their role is financial and fiscal responsibility and accountability. Their review does not replace the staff review. This table shows who has the authority to make the final decision
after those staff reviews have been completed. For donations valued to almost $500, staff from the benefiting department can accept the donation. Donations valued $500 to almost $5,000 would be under the beneficiary department head's approval authority. $5,000 to nearly $200,000 would be the responsibility of the city manager. And city council is responsible for all donations valued $200,000 or greater. This $200,000 threshold, separating the city manager's authority from yours, is in line with the authorization levels for purchasing goods and services under the municipal code. In addition to all donations valued $200,000 or greater, City Council will also review and accept donations of artifacts anytime the city manager recommends, including for donations valued less than $200,000. Anytime a city council member is part of that facilitation or the securing of the donation offer, any non-standard donations, and this is really anything that the policy doesn't clearly anticipate or articulate about a different donation type. And finally, all donations of real property. Timelines, communication, and reporting. Staff reviews will be completed within 30 business days. This includes both the department review and the financial review. For items that will be reviewed and ultimately accepted by the City Council, the item will be added to the council agenda as soon after the staff review as possible. Once a determination has been made to either accept or reject the gift, staff are responsible for communicating this decision in writing to the donor and thanking them for their generosity. In addition to this finance review, the finance department are responsible for maintaining the original donation forms, and an annual report will be prepared to inform you of all donations that were offered to us, whether accepted or not, of $5,000 or more. While the process is generally the same for all types of donations, there are a few exceptions, and I'd like to define each of those. There will be a slide for each of these categories following. Artifacts. For artifacts, as with all the special categories, a donation form is required, and the staff review will be conducted by the city manager's office. Artifacts always will be presented to the City Council for final review and approval. As part of that report to you, special evaluation criteria and information will be provided, including whether the item promotes hate, violence, or discrimination, whether the item requires exclusive display or commercial promotion, the intention of the gift, and the prior origin and ownership. Non-standard donations are quite similar to artifacts. A donation form is always required, and the review will be coordinated by the city manager's office. They will be presented to you for final approval with special details regarding the nature, the intent, obligations, and potential impacts of the proposed donation. Real property donations, again, require the special form, and attached to that form, donors should supply a title report. Staff review will be coordinated through the Economic Development Director, and they will always be presented to you at City Council for final approval. As part of that presentation, staff will recommend any conditions of acceptance. And the final special category is that of public art. These are really the most unique types of donations. First, those donations can be loaned on a temporary basis or gifted in perpetuity. The donation form is always required, but as a reminder, this one is slightly different, requesting further details about the artist, the artwork, technical drawings, pictures, all sorts of extra details. The review by the staff will be coordinated through the Economic Development team, and an additional aesthetic review will be completed by the Public Art Commission. Both staff and the Public Art Commission will come together with a recommendation to the approval authority. And unlike the other special categories, the approval authority depends on the value of the loan or donation and will not automatically come before this body for approval. And finally,
The artist, if we choose to accept this donation, an artist shall enter into a public art donation agreement with the city to establish terms for installation, maintenance, financial responsibility, and any conditions related to a loan if the gift is loaned rather than given it in perpetuity. In conclusion, the donation acceptance policy intends to encourage community generosity while protecting the city from unintended consequences. Adopting a policy would bring the following benefits: clear accountability, approval thresholds and outlines of the staff's role, the finance department's role, your role, the Public Art Commission's role are all clear. Consistency and transparency. All donations will be evaluated using the same criteria. Financial and operational safeguards. Costs and restrictions will be reviewed and deemed administrable and acceptable long before a gift is accepted. Improved reporting. Donation offers will be documented in a uniform way, and City Council will receive an annual update of all donations, whether accepted or rejected. An improved strategic alignment. Donations will be evaluated against city purposes and priorities. Although this policy attempts to be quite comprehensive, we recognize that many elements might come up that we haven't fully anticipated. As donation offers are received and this process is put into practice, the policy can be refined and adjusted as needed. Staff recommends that City Council approve Resolution Number 2026-45 to adopt the donation acceptance policy. With that, I am open to any questions.
Are there any public comments?
None.
Okay. No, I like the policy. Thank you, by the way, for the presentation. Was that your first one?
Yes.
Yeah, you did fantastic.
Thank you.
Question for the city manager. The 200,000 threshold, to me, that makes sense. Is there a reason why we wouldn't consider some sort of a rule for notification to the council?
You can, if you want some kind of I guess, what is the criteria under which the notification? The intent of the policy, when the city there may be things that are valued under 200,000 that are, and again, we're anticipating a lot of things like artifacts, real property. This was more what I think is more likely to happen is there's some financial donation to the city in that range. If you want that to be, the notification is the final report, but if you want a notification upon determination, I'm happy to have that added to the policy. But what I wanted to articulate was there may be things that financially fall under that threshold, and the city manager is going to direct that they go to council anyway. Right? So I want it clear that that's what the city manager recommendation is. So I foresee that there'll probably be some stuff that fits under the dollar amount that's still coming to you. But I'm happy to say that I could include acceptance as a regular notice. Upon acceptance, the council is also informed upon the acceptance.
That is perfect. Thank you.
So we can amend the document to include that language.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. This was really good. Was it slide 22? Oh, there we go, 21. Yes, this is also good. I really appreciate this. And one thing I do have a question on, I understand as far as the thresholds and the amount of approving or receiving the gifts and donations. When it comes to figuring out the future cost of maintenance that the city might incur on these things, who makes the decision to go ahead and say, yes, it's going to cost us this amount of tax money? I mean, is it something that, is there a threshold for those amounts as well before it comes to council?
There is not currently built into the policy a threshold on future costs, but I would say the guiding principle is to have all of that documented, and that's a likely reason that something would come to council in that the value of the gift, once we calculate in the costs of the ongoing operation, might raise the level above $200,000. So we could make that language more explicit, that the obligation and the cost of the gift, we could add that language in with little concern. I think one of the questions to be in front of the council is, are you willing, a gift is X, but the ongoing obligation is going to quickly outstrip the value of the gift.
That's my concern.
We could again adjust the language to address that concern so that it's clear to applicants that that is going to be really one of the criteria points. So I've got no issue making that adjustment, that the valuation will be based not only on the value of the gift, but the ongoing obligations associated with it. So we could easily make that adjustment too in the final policy.
Because I'd like to be gifted a Lamborghini, but I can't afford the insurance, so, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Very thorough presentation, and I don't have a lot of questions or comments. If there would ever be the necessity to return a gift, I didn't hear anything regarding that, so I'll put that out there. Unless I lost for a moment there that I didn't hear it. I would like a little more maybe explicit language, clear language, that the gifts should be in line with council priorities. It's in there, but I think clarity would probably be a little better. Solicited versus unsolicited gifts. Do we have, I didn't see any language in there, because there definitely could be a perception if we are soliciting a gift versus.
So the process was very clear. You have to approach the city. That's part of the process. So however initial conversation unfolds, I'm not going to speculate on that, but you are approaching this. That's why the process is put into existence. The donor has to approach the city, and it's clear there can be no reciprocation from the donor.
Yeah,
that's why the form exists. I want to assure you that's why we need to have consistent basis. All these gifts need to be coming from an applicant to the city.
Yeah, and being that we've had situations already develop as to how we're doing that and saw that there was a lack of a policy, I'm very glad that this is before us and so thorough. Those were just some of the things as I was reading and listening that came to my mind. I think it's great to be grateful for the generosity that the community would like to provide for other members of the community and the city. And we just have to have a responsibility to understand the full impact on the city, and I think long-term, and that's well addressed, to make sure that we are well aware of what Councilmember Fitzgerald mentioned, how important it is that long-term, what is the cost going to be. So with that, it concludes my remarks and questions and concerns, and thank you so much.
Thank you for your feedback.
Great job, Nicole. Okay, so one thing that I think that's great that we have this policy, we needed one. I had a question about, I know you can't see the form, but I know that you have two forms, and I'm assuming names on there. So this would be no anonymous donations, correct? Or do we, because I would like to be explicit about no anonymous donations.
The form does require a name and
good.
contact
So
details.
that addresses the no anonymous donations. It's important that we know who's gifting. And we had a situation in the past that was an anonymous donor. I'd like, so the $200,000, does that mirror your current limit? Is that why that number was chosen? Okay, so it's consistent with your current limit on other things. Okay, and then I'm not opposed to getting notifications. I actually like the idea of using the website I will, even if it's an annual list of like what were the gifts that the city received for transparency, because I noticed that it's here, we talk about consistency and transparency. Since you already will be notifying the council at some point, because there's I think there's an annual report process embedded in this. If that could also be listed on the website for transparency, that would be great. I would request that. And I do like, if we can go back to the slide that talks about the exceptions to the 200,000. Here, regardless of value, artifacts, city manager recommendation, council member facilitated, non-standard donations, real property. I feel like I'm glad that's there regardless of amount. So I also very much strongly support that. So yeah, I think this is a great draft for a policy. And I just wanted to add those additional things about no anonymous donations, and then adding the information on the website for the public to also be able to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, good job. And I move to approve.
Are you making an improvement with a motion with the notification, with the 200,000 being including the operational obligations?
Do you want to make the motion, or I'll second it? Just because I want to make sure
I want to make sure I'm clear.
yes, we all want to be clear.
Okay, I can make the motion. The only, I don't have a problem with the priorities, but do my colleagues agree that it should align with priorities? Because I feel like that might add another layer. Does that make it complicated for staff to do that? Because I feel like that really narrows it.
I don't think so. I think as long as
Okay.
we reference the current council priorities.
Okay.
we can
In
put it
general,
there.
right? Like,
In
okay.
general, yes,
Okay.
without listing them specifically today.
I don't have any issue with anything my colleagues wanted to, so I would say move to approve the policy with all of our included addendums, which is the council priority, the no anonymous donations, publishing on the website. Did I miss?
$200,000.
And the $200,000. That one I need more clarity on, the
Well,
200,000.
counting, once staff does the review of the cost of ownership, if that pushes the total value of the gift over $200,000, that would trigger an automatic review by council. That's what I think was being
Is that correct?
articulated.
Yes.
Councilmember? Okay.
Yeah.
And that is an extra, that makes it, that kind of lowers the threshold of when it would normally come back to us, right?
I mean, again, I think some of those questions will be embedded in the particular categories we've already, but there's no reason not to articulate it.
Okay.
That if the value, because I think that's ultimately what the policy is trying to state, is that there's a cost of ownership of a gift sometimes, and the city needs to understand that cost of ownership. So I think we can wordsmith it to state that once the value of the cost of ownership is calculated, if that raises the total value of the gift above the 200,000, that would automatically come back to council.
Okay,
I believe we can do that.
so, yeah, so is that a clear motion?
As it currently stands, I have motion to approve the policy with the inclusion of the council priorities, no anonymous donors, the $200,000 threshold requirement for council approval. Is there any-
And I believe there was anything that a notification upon receipt of stuff that items that are not going to appear before council.
And the website?
That are in the
report.
city manager's approval range, right?
And then the website.
Yeah. I got it. We got it.
Do you want to do, so sorry to be picky, do you want to do website or just public notification, public notice? The only reason why I asked is because, no,
What's the difference? I can't read myself.
I'm just, it's just wording.
Okay, I think,
It's up to you.
so, as far as like the public, I do want it on the website. So,
Okay.
because there is going to be a
That's
website
fine.
there's going to be a website where you see the
Totally
form,
fine.
so yes.
Totally fine.
Yeah,
Totally fine. Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
yes.
Is that clear to everybody before I call for the vote? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. Please vote.
Voting is open. Motion, Councilmember Martinez, it's not registering your vote. Do you mind clicking submit? I'm anticipating your vote, but just want to make sure. Motion approved, 5-0. Thank you so much.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Last item, designation of enforcement authority for the Escondido Campaign Control Ordinance.
I think Zach's setting it up. Oh, great. Thank you, Zach. Good evening, Council. Mike McGinnis, your city attorney. Please allow this to cover your biennial requirement to appoint a campaign enforcement authority to enforce the city's campaign control ordinance in the city's municipal code. Tonight, I will cover the following topics in support of this matter. First, I'll briefly discuss the origins and purpose of why the council undertakes this appointment process. Next, I'll go over the enforcement powers of the enforcement authority or special counsel. So I'm going to use those terms interchangeably, enforcement authority, special counsel, or I might even say authority, which all mean the same thing. I will cover the complaint submission and review process performed by the special counsel. I will next identify the nominated enforcement authority, and I will end with the city attorney's recommendation for your consideration this evening. The main purpose of this item is to ensure timely compliance with our code in the selection and installment of the special counsel for the election year. To start, the Escondido Municipal Code recognizes that a potential conflict of interest may exist in an appointed city attorney, like myself, being charged with responsibility of examining and even prosecuting his or her own council members in cases of alleged campaign finance and related violations. As a result, under the code, the city attorney is specifically prohibited from participating in an investigation and making administrative or criminal charging decisions as to the council members. Instead, the code requirement is for the appointment of an enforcement authority to have plenary or complete control over that entire process. Under the code, the city attorney nominates the special counsel, and the city council exercises its discretion to appoint the attorney to perform that role. This nomination and appointment must be done at least 180 days before the election. This year, the election will be held on November 3rd, and this matter is timely. Under the code, the roles and responsibilities of the enforcement authority are identified. The enforcement authority will review complaints of alleged violations under the campaign control ordinance. The campaign control ordinance is found in Chapter 2, Article 3, and covers various campaign-related requirements and prohibitions of candidates for elected office. Provided sufficient proof exists, the special counsel has authority to prosecute criminal actions under the code and otherwise take administrative proceedings to compel both a candidate or to stop a candidate from doing something that constitutes a violation of our code. At no time is my office or the city attorney involved in any stage of that review and decision-making process. Generally speaking, the enforcement authority has fairly broad discretion on how to undertake his or her role. Any action which is necessary to investigate the allegations is within the enforcement authority's province. The authority can demand from any candidate or through the candidate's campaign documents that may assist in the investigation of that individual. Like all prosecutors in the state, under the code, the special counsel enjoys immunity from civil and criminal liability for performing their duties and responsibilities in this position. That type of condition allows for a robust examination of potential allegations. Of course, the authority must be operating within the structure of the code in order to obtain the benefit of that immunity. The complaint process starts with a complaint from a resident of the city in a written form that requests an investigation into a violation of the campaign control ordinance. That prima facie complaint, once received, is immediately provided to the enforcement authority for consideration. Under the code, if those complaint elements are satisfied, the authority is required to examine the complaint and consider its allegations. However, while the initial examination is mandatory, the special counsel has discretion whether to do anything with the complaint, and if so, what to do with it by administrative, criminal or other action. As well, the code provides a 2-year statute of limitations for any complaint such that the authority loses any jurisdiction over a complaint related to actions taking place more than 2 years before its submission. The city attorneys renominated Christina Cameron as the enforcement authority for the 2026 election season. Ms. Cameron is a licensed attorney in California and was appointed by the City Council as the enforcement authority in 2022 and in 2024. As you can see on the screen, Ms. Cameron has been involved in all sorts of levels as general counsel for ethics commissions with the FPPC Cal Cities Committee, the member of the Council of the Government Ethics Laws. Her law firm practices in the fields of ethics, Brown Act, public records, campaign and election issues. And I'll add one other note. I was recently asked to sit as a panelist or selection panelist for the City of San Diego's Police Practices Commission, and they did a statewide search for outside counsel, and we got submissions from all around the state. Ms. Cameron was selected unanimously by that panel for her qualifications and expertise in the field of ethics and all Brown Act type municipal law issues. So, in light of Ms. Cameron's experience and qualifications to serve in that role as the city's campaign enforcement authority, that is my recommendation on behalf of the city attorney's office. If the council is satisfied with that nomination, I would ask that you adopt Resolution 2026-46, designating Christina Cameron and the Devaney Pate Law Firm as Campaign Control Ordinance Enforcement Authority for the 2026 season. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
All right, there are no public comments. Thank you for that. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve resolution number 2026-46 and ask for a second. Perfect. Motion and second. Questions and comments? No. All right, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to a future agenda?
I do. I would like our staff to explore potential moratorium on data centers.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay. Council member, subcommittee reports, and other reports. Shoot, I just put mine away. Let's start down this way this time.
All righty. So had a very successful Earth Day event at Washington Park. Thanks to all who participated. It was one of my neighborhood celebrations, so I did get staff support, and it was wonderful to have them there. Awesome. We had 30 exhibitors, and it was warm weather, so it was a beautiful day. So thank you for all that came and just supported in any way that you could. I had a San Diego River Park Joint Powers Authority meeting on Friday, and we unanimously approved our budget, and this year we are looking at member agencies, which City of Escondido is part of. The budget does include a 5% members' dues increase as last year, so wanted to share that. And then another thing that came up on this, and I've mentioned this before, a hot button issue in the JPA is there's a campaign called Raise Lake Hodges. So Lake Hodges has had to reduce their water levels based on recommendations from the Department of Dam Safety, the state, and there has been, for years, the residents have been concerned because now because the water levels have lowered, there's been an overgrowth of vegetation. So now, and that was done to really prevent a catastrophe of flooding should there be an earthquake. But what hasn't been really researched is, and what the residents are saying, is that now we have a fire hazard with the overgrowth of the bush there. So they were asking us, the San Diego River Park, to chime in the conversation, and this is like City of San Diego, is responsible for the maintenance of the dam. And so pretty much we encouraged them a year ago to go do advocacy at the state level. And so they have reached out to Assemblymember Patel, to the Water Authority. So they've done their due diligence, and they went and listened, and for over a year, they've been meeting with a bunch of decision makers. And so now the next step is we agreed as not the Water Authority, as a JPA to send a letter to the city of San Diego to inquire if they were to explore lowering levels, have they looked into, what are the reasons that it wouldn't be able to be lowered, and kind of give them the reason to share why those reasons are. And the request of the residents is to lower it to 293. And so again, we're trying to prevent catastrophic wildfires. So TBD, more to share on that, but that continues to be a very big issue for residents. All the planning commissions have been signing on to it and really pressuring us. We're kind of like their last resort to try to help them advocate to get some answers. They just want information and answers, and they're kind of hitting a brick wall. So we decided to go ahead and write a letter of support asking the city to go ahead and just answer some of their questions. So I'll be sharing more on that once we hear back, if we hear back from them. I believe that is all that I have. Yeah, that's all that I have. Thank you.
There was the Lao New Year Festival here at the Center for the Arts that I was able to participate in. It was a lot of fun. As always, happy Easter to everybody who celebrated. And as always, thank you to my community for the privilege of serving.
Okay, today was the Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee meeting, which I spoke at. It was a great meeting. Today was also the ribbon cutting for the new Chick-fil-A on Center City Parkway, whose grand opening is tomorrow, and if you show up dressed as a cow, apparently you get free food. We had a LAFCO meeting Monday, but there's nothing to report from that. And then this past week, I took a tour of the East County Transitional Living Center, who provides homeless services, and it was a fantastic meeting. They're looking to expand and potentially open up some sort of resource here in the city of Escondido. That concludes my report.
So I have a short report. Today, the Cal City's Public Safety Committee met, and we discussed different legislations coming forward. AB 2582, Schultz regarding crimes, specifically prostitution, and about divergence regarding that, because a lot of the prostitutes tend to be minors and people that are brought into this and seen more as victims than committing the crime. So that's a discussion that's going on. We voted not to take a position on that. AB 2749, Sharps-Collins, this is also about prostitution. This one brings the scope to a narrow definition of loitering for soliciting sex to pay, and it makes it a lot harder to prosecute these types of crimes, so we voted to oppose that. And there are big discussion that we had regarding e-bikes. There's a lot of cities, a lot of jurisdictions that are now talking about that, what can be done, and I know that up ahead in the future we'll be discussing ourselves that. So I have a whole list of cities and different questions and ideas and that I'll be sending to the city attorney as they're preparing the presentation for us. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you, Councilmember Martinez, regarding the information on Lake Hodges, because I have had people asking about what's going on there. So I appreciate that. I'll be sharing that. Well, I'll start with today. I too attended the Chick-fil-A grand opening, and it is a fantastic location. They have outdoor seating, a big parking lot, and one thing that really stood out is that they have hired 90 employees, so they're going to employ 90 people. 50% of them are full-time employees, and more than 50% of them are Escondido residents. Yeah, and also the management team, the majority of them are also Escondido residents. I always ask where they live. So, and then also Zach and Megan, who are the owners who live in Carmel, the Carmel Mountain area, they are looking to buy in Escondido because they just fell in love with our city, the people, and they're looking forward to the missing middle housing development. So I just thought I'd share that. Yes. Let's see. I want to go to, real quick, this week I attended the first Latino Business Group meeting. It was hosted by SBDC and My San Diego North County, held at the Escondido Chamber of Commerce, and it was the first of what's going to be many regional business meetings. I believe it's going to be at the Chamber of Commerce, or they might look at rotating up to Fallbrook, Valley Center, different areas, but again, it's just to expand the networking and economic development within the cities. Let's see, I also attended the Regional Waste Association meeting. There is a lot of new legislation that's really going to be tightening the grip on a lot of the cities. And one good thing about that is that we in Escondido are not one of the cities that are sweating it. We are leading the county in the food recycling program, and also the educational, amongst other things. And so the new legislation, I think there's going to be a presentation coming up next week, I believe. So I'll let them report on that. But it's a lot happening, but I'm just saying that our staff is staying ahead of it. So we should be really proud of what they're doing. Absolutely. I did a couple of business check-ins. Pizza Amore have been here, gosh, going on 30 years, or a new location, but I went in to check in on them, and they are happy. They love Escondido. Business is thriving. Even through COVID, they said that they haven't had any problems, so they're very grateful to our city. And also visited Serenity Spa, new spa in the Fellow Cedar Center. And let's see, tomorrow, so tomorrow from 10 to 1 p.m., the San Diego Workforce Partnership in collaboration with the City of Escondido is hosting the first Future of Food Job Fair at Escondido Ag X. So that's going to be tomorrow from 10 to 1, and it's going to be at 455 North Quince Street. There's going to be speakers, there's going to be people looking to hire, and really educational, informative, but a lot of it is really job placement. So again, really good work by the city staff, economic development, and this is really exciting. And that is all I have to report on. Thank you.
City Manager?
Nothing to report.
Okay, there are no public comments, so this meeting is adjourned.